good morning, afternoon, or evening, and welcome to the Bloody Disgusting Network. The following show is just horrifying. Beware.
Hello everyone, and welcome to the Horror Queers episode on Season 6, Episode 7 of Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Once More with Feeling. Now, we are not oblivious to the fact that television shows are not something we cover often on the podcast, with the main exception being the trio of episodes we covered on American Horror Story Asylum back in 2019. But we don't usually cover TV as that requires our listeners to have a knowledge of the show's mythology and continuity. So, why are we covering an episode from a 6th season of a television series that went off the air in 2003? Well, not only is the episode celebrating its 20th anniversary this week, but it's also an amazing episode of television that should be seen by everyone. If you haven't seen the show, never fear, I'm here to offer a brief plot recap as it pertains to the events of the episode. If you're a Buffy fan, feel free to skip ahead to the beginning of the show. You can see the timestamp marked in the show notes, but if you've never seen an episode of Buffy before, then this plot recap is for you. So, let's get some brief character introductions and dynamics out of the way first. Throughout the series, Vampire Slayer Buffy Summers, played by Sarah Michelle Gellar, is assisted by her close friends, who refer to themselves as the Scooby Gang. These include Xander Harris, played by Nicholas Brendam, a young man without particular strengths or talents but devoted to Buffy and her calling, and Willow Rosenberg, played by Allison Hannigan, a young woman who has grown from a shy but gifted student into a strong woman and powerful witch. They are mentored by Buffy's Watcher, Rupert Giles, played by Anthony Stewart Head, a paternal figure since the first season. Xander is engaged to Anya Jenkins, played by Emma Caulfield, a former vengeance demon who has become human. They have struggled with disclosing their engagement to the rest of the group and individually doubt their impending marriage. Willow is romantically involved with Tara McClay, played by Amber Benson, a powerful but ethical witch. Tara has previously expressed concern at Willow's use of her emergent magical powers for trivial or personal matters. Now, let's set the stage for the season as a whole. Buffy died at the end of the 5th season, sacrificing herself in place of her younger sister Dawn, played by Michelle Trachtenberg, in order to save the world. In the first episode of Season 6, Willow, believing Buffy to be in hell, used magic to bring her back from the grave. Buffy was in fact at peace in what she thinks was heaven, but she has kept this a secret from her friends. Since her resurrection, Buffy has been lost and without inspiration to perform her duties as a Slayer. In the preceding episode, Willow cast a spell to make Tara forget an argument about her abuse of magic. In the same episode, Dawn, who has been stealing from the stores, including Anya's magic shop, lies to Buffy and goes on a clandestine and almost deadly date. Left to take care of Dawn after the death of their mother in the 5th season, Buffy has come to depend more heavily on Giles. Following Dawn's date, Buffy asks Giles to shoulder responsibility for disciplining her, much to his discomfort. Buffy's former nemesis is the vampire Spike, played by James Marsters. In the 4th season, the Initiative, a secret military organization whose mission is to evaluate and eliminate demonic beings, rendered Spike harmless by implanting a microchip in his head that causes him intense pain when he attacks humans. However, the chip does not affect him when he harms demons, and he now often fights on Buffy's side. His motivations changed when, in the 5th season, Spike realized he had fallen in love with Buffy. She initially rejected him, but just before her death, they had begun to form a friendship of sorts. She has been confiding in him, and prior to this episode, he is the only one to whom Buffy has revealed that she was in heaven. And so kicks off the events of Once More with Feeling.
And welcome back to Horror Queers. We're talking a retro pastiche that's never going to be a breakaway pop hit. We're talking 36 minutes of music and 38 minutes of show. And we're talking bunnies! Bunnies, it must be bunnies! And I'm Joe.
And I'm Trace, and we're talking My Penis Got Diseases from a Shumash Tribe.
I have that line.
I love that we both do Anya lines. Hello, everyone! we are discussing Once More with Feeling, aka Season 6, Episode 7 of Buffy the Vampire Slayer, aka the musical episode of Buffy the Vampire Slayer, which I believe just celebrated its 20th anniversary, Joe.
Oh my God, ways to make me feel really fucking old. This isn't even like, oh, it's an early Buffy episode. Like, it's season 6.
I know, it is season 6. And so, listeners, I mean, both Joe and I were like, well, everyone's seen Buffy, right? And that's our age showing, because obviously we know that not everyone has seen Buffy. Even when it aired, not everyone saw Buffy, because it was always one of those bubble shows.
Oh, sure.
So hopefully our recap before this episode helped catch you up. And if it didn't,
go watch the show.
Go watch the show.
Well, wait. Come back after you've watched all 6 seasons.
Oh my god. But Joe, I mean, this is a bit of a new territory for us. As we said in the recap, we've covered TV before. We've done American Horror Story, and I did fail to mention that we have done In the Flesh, which everyone go watch In the Flesh, because it's a 3-episode British season of television. But yeah, I mean, we've never done something like this. And I confess, I'm the one that's always trying to not do this, right?
Indeed. You are the one who's resistant to most change, yes.
To television. But you know what? It's okay, because everyone, while this episode is steeped in plot and continuity, I think you can still watch it standalone and, like, get the gist of it.
Absolutely. Buffy is a show that's funny regardless of whether you know what's going on, because it's just very, very clever.
Yes, absolutely. But, I mean, we are super fans, but I don't think we're enough to talk about this episode of this masterpiece of television. I think we need a guest. So, everyone. He is one of the lead actors in the queer horror short film The Latent Image, which Joe and I actually covered on Microqueers a few months ago. He is also a voice in Eerie Earfuls, a Halloween audio soundtrack that mixes classic Halloween songs with an ongoing narrative as a group of teens try to navigate their way through Halloween and get out alive. Please welcome Joshua Tonks.
Hey guys!
Hello!
I loved your intros. Good singing, everybody. Good job.
Oh my god. Are you going to sing for us? Are you going to sing for us today?
Sing, do it.
Have to.
Dance, monkey, dance.
No, do it once more, though, with feeling.
With feeling. We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens as we go.
Oh my
I
god.
predicted all of us would sing. I didn't expect that both Trace and I would try to do it in the opening, though.
Oh, it was fab. It was amazing.
I mean, y'all, this is an episode of television that I used to watch a lot as soon as I got my hands on the DVD copy of Buffy the Vampire Slayer, because this was, pre-streaming. And, God, it's such a warm, fuzzy episode of television, despite...
It's super fucking dark.
Yes!
I mean, that's the thing that I think people often forget, right? They write this off as, oh, it was a show for teenagers. Oh, it's based off of a bad movie. Oh, this is the dark season when the big bad, aka the primary antagonist, is real life. So it's funny that one of the show's biggest, most celebrated episodes comes 6 seasons in, and arguably in one of its least popular seasons.
Ooh, okay,
Yeah.
for both of you, because I actually love season 6. I know why people don't, and it is a very depressing season of television. What are y'all's thoughts on this season compared to the others? Are y'all in the group that likes it as a whole, or are you like, nah, it's not my Buffy?
It's not my favorite, for sure. It's not. I think I'd probably rank it as one of the lowest ones, and not because it's, objectively bad. It's not. It's just not for me, and it is hard to watch. We talk about this episode being bright and shiny and everyone's favorite, but actually within the context, even some of the the most beautiful melodies are what they're actually about is something really, really fucking awful.
Oh yeah. Buffy's whole arc in especially season 6, but in this particular episode as she's struggling with what she's going through is basically I was living a perfect existence and now I'm in hell. Hell just happens to be Earth.
Ugh.
Yeah, it's
So
miserable. It's miserable. And the people that brought her back into this hellscape are her best friends. It's so complicated.
There's so many layered emotions in this episode, and I do feel like even watching it, this week, I was I feel like I'm picking up on more of these nuances, more so in the Giles and Buffy dynamic, because I confess that Giles' song is my least favorite at this entire episode.
What?
I know.
No, I love
it.
He's the best singer.
Yeah. He's a great singer. I just the type of song he has, I don't like it.
Yeah.
Are you not a balladeer, Trace? You don't like
I don't know what that
ballads?
means. Oh, yes. I'm sorry. Yes. No, I'm not a ballad person.
Well, to bring it back to the question, I don't mind this season, but I'll confess that I also have a very... I have a very weird relationship with Buffy. So it's not just that I'm a fan and I watched all the episodes. Like, I wrote my master's thesis on the show. So I have rewatched Buffy.
Sweet.
Like 1,000,000 times because my thesis is actually ranking all of the villains on the show. So it's very interesting to watch from that specific perspective because in this case, some people will say, oh, well, season 6 isn't great because it doesn't really even have a big bad. And, then people say like, oh, it's the trio of nerds or it's Dark Willow. And I'm sorry for the people who don't watch the show. That means nothing to you.
Right.
But watch the show.
But watch the show.
But watch the show.
And at the end of the day, I think one of the things I like about the show is that it matures as its characters do. Yeah. So it doesn't try to say, oh, they're in high school for 6 years.
Yeah.
So I like that this season gets dark because this is the point in a lot of people's lives when shit isn't quite going right. Like in your early to mid 20s, you are fucking up left, right, and center because you don't know what you're doing.
Well, I think that's the thing. I mean, again, I do really like this season of television, but it's not something that I enjoy watching, if that makes any sense,
Yeah. Well, because you don't want to see characters that you enjoy going through bad times.
Yes, very much so. And I mean, also, just in terms of the background of the show, this is, going way back in time at 2000, 2001, but this is the first season of the show that was on UPN because maybe y'all know this better than I do. Was it canceled and then UPN picked it up? Or was it just like a behind the scenes, like, oh, hey, we're passing this along to you, so here's the finale on the WB, and then we'll just continue on UPN?
I think it was cancelled.
I think so too.
After Series 5, yeah, they sort of reached their 100th episode and then UPN picked it up, and because they did the big marketing campaign, which was Buffy Lives, because obviously at the end of season 5, Buffy dies in the beginning of season 6. It's
almost like
resurrected.
A double entendre.
Yeah, for sure, it's exactly that.
I don't know if the stylist, again, going from network to network affected the production of the show, but
it does. They had less money.
Well, shit, you couldn't tell in this episode.
Well, this episode was a long time coming.
Yeah.
Yeah, they started work on this one, straight away, didn't they?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I have notes on that.
I was going to say, Trace will walk us through the whole fucking thing.
But, okay, let's bring it kind of back a little bit, though. Because, Josh, you 100% were like, oh, I would love to come on a Buffy episode.
For sure.
So, for people that may not be familiar with Buffy or whatever, we're not going to explain the whole deal. But, why do all of us connect with Buffy? And it can be as a queer person or generally speaking. But, Josh, why don't you start us off? What is it about Buffy for you?
I think for me personally, and I think Trace, not to assume, but you'll probably relate because we're the same age. So I think it kind of just hit us right at that perfect time. It was around that time where we got that new resurgence in the late 90s of teen content. We had Scream, we had I Know What You Did Last Summer, and we had Buffy on TV, we had Dawson's Creek, we had all that kind of stuff. And for me, at least, being a little British kid, seeing these sort of articulate teens talking about all these monsters and stuff, but it was actually a metaphor for their sort of own sort of teen experiences, and they all felt really cool and more adult. It all felt very aspirational for me, and it was something that I aspired to be like, and I kind of became obsessed with it. And I also think, obviously, there's such a link between millennial gays and their white divas. You know what I mean? For me, I look at, before Buffy, there was Kimberly Hart, the Pink Power Ranger, and then before the Pink Power Ranger, there was a television show in the UK which was based on a book series by a writer called Dick King-Smith, and it's called The Queen's Nose. And without going into that in too much detail, it's about this young girl who gets given a magical coin that she can make wishes on, but the main girl in it is this kind of quippy lead female character, and it's sort of I can just see from birth I was obsessed with these female characters, and then Buffy was kind of the culmination of that, so I really related to her and sort of fell in love with her and wanted to be just like her. And also I was well into karate as well, all of that martial arts shit.
I was a taekwondo kid.
Right?
Oh my god, I was a karate kid too.
Yeah, I did karate.
Because we didn't want to play team sports, right?
No, not at all.
Except for Joe, I'm sorry.
Well, I didn't play a lot of team sports as a kid. It was my outlet for my aggression because my parents were very afraid I think they thought I was going to murder somebody, so they were like, let's funnel the anger into something productive and therapeutic.
See, for me, it was a last resort because, like, I had done baseball, I had done basketball, I had done soccer, and I was basically like, I don't like any of this. And my mom was like, you have to do something active. So she gave me a bunch of options, and I was like, oh, karate, because I had just seen the Karate Kid movie. Not the good ones, the one with Hilary Swank. And I was like, I want to be like her.
Like the next generation.
So you didn't have the Queen's nose, you had Hilary Swank and the next Karate Kid.
Yep. Which, by the way, though, they just released a Blu-ray set of the Karate Kid movies, and it's just the Ralph Macchio ones. They fucking left out the Hilary Swank one.
And the Jaden one.
Yeah, but that's a remake. So, I mean, it's kind of like, I get leaving that one out. Like, at least the Hilary Swank one's still part of the actual, like, continuity.
Let me ask you a question real quick, like, karate related.
Mm-hmm.
When I was a really young kid and you're kind of like playing like whatever make-believe stories with your friends, when I was playing with the other guys, they'd always want it to be like action and have like guns and things like that. And I was like never into guns as a kid. And if we were ever like fighting or whatever, I would always want it to be like martial arts. And I don't know where that's come from as well. Like, were you guys the same? Like, I never wanted guns to solve problems in my kind of like pretend games or whatever that you'd play.
Okay, I feel like
that's so British of you.
I know, you're already shaming us North Americans. No, I mean, like, because we had like Nerf guns and we had water guns that we played with, but I remember when Power Rangers was airing, there was a whole thing. It was like, because again, kids were emulating the show.
Yeah.
And I remember watching the news, and it was a problem where like kids were fighting each other like playfully, but actually hurting each other because they were trying to do Power Rangers.
Oh shit! Yeah.
But did you not find it always more interesting, like, from a story point of view? Like, if characters didn't have a gun, it meant that, like, they'd have to, like...
Josh, when I was 6 or 7, I didn't care. I wasn't thinking about that.
I was obviously a very...
Josh is like, I'm an introspective kid, okay?
I think I was, yeah.
I mean, I just played with Batman, so he had things like repellers and other weird gadgetry. But yeah, I would do Batman versus G.I. Joe.
Fine.
Wow, manly.
But I'm Joe, so butch, yes.
What about your connection? Because, I mean, you did your thesis on it, but yeah, why?
So I'm a little bit older than the pair of you, and this meant I was actually outside of the demographic, but I had a cousin who was living with me. There were some like family issues, and my younger cousin was living with me for the summer, and he would watch on YTV, which is a Canadian channel that's kind of equivalent to Nickelodeon. And it was right between season 1 and season 2. So they were kind of marathoning it because they knew the show was coming back. And that was really when the show gained a lot of popularity. Like, fans of the show know the first season, it's fine, but it's not super well received. And then season 2, it starts back off and it's like a massive hit. Or a massive hit, you know, commiserate with the size of the audience.
I think for me, the turning point of the show, because when I was trying to watch it as a kid, like, it's the Halloween episode when everyone becomes their costumes.
Yes.
That was my first episode. That's the first episode I ever watched.
Okay. That's the turning point of the show for me, where I'm like, okay, cool. I think the show, and then of course we get into the Angelus arc that season, but like that's the episode where like it felt like the show had really come into its own.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I was watching the season 1 episodes. I think the first episode I watched was the one with the kid who was dreaming. I think it's just called Nightmares.
Nightmares, yeah.
Yeah, and it's funny because I feel like it gets a shout out in this episode where Willow says, "Are we stuck inside a kid's nightmare and we're all just dancing?" And I was like, that's a nice callback. But
yeah, it is, isn't it? Wacky Broadway Nightmare.
There we go. Wacky Broadway Nightmare. But so I was watching with him because I was kind of babysitting my cousin, and I thought he was just watching trash all the time. Like, he was watching baby shows. And then Buffy comes on, and I thought, oh, there's something here. This dialogue is whip smart. The acting is way better. It's got like monsters, but the monsters generally don't look like shit. I don't know how well the show is aged in about 20 to 25 years, but you know, it's a TV budget. They didn't spend $3 million on an episode every week back then. But all this to say, so I ended up getting hooked, and then my cousin ended up leaving, and I just kept watching the show. So my first kind of proper season was 2, and I'll never forget Sarah Michelle Gellar showing up in that first episode of season 2 when she was bad, and she's got her fresh from the set of I Know What You Did Last Summer haircut. She's fucking rockin' sexy outfits because she's not old Buffy anymore. And then Chibo Mato is playing at the Bronze. The music is great. She's great. The show is great. And I watched the rest of the fucking show all the way through season 7.
What a time to be alive.
Right?
Buffy premiered like a month or two after Scream hit theaters. I cannot...
We were living in the golden age of teen drama and television.
Everything for us. It was everything. 1997, what a year for Sarah Michelle Gellar.
Oh my God.
What a year.
Oh, I mean, yes.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, so Josh, you're a little bit correct in your assumption for me. The problem is I actually didn't start watching Buffy live until the final season 7.
Oh, shit.
Wow.
And the reason is because I was not allowed to watch Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Because if y'all
Mama
remember...
Trace, you're striking again.
I know. If you remember, WB had a warning before every single episode saying that it was intended for older audiences, not for young children, and blah, 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 blah.
Oh, see, we wouldn't know that because neither one of us was watching on the WB.
Oh, well, there you go. Well, so my mother saw that and was like, well, you can't watch that. So unfortunately, like, the horror supernatural show that I grew up with was actually Charmed.
Right.
Oh, I love Charmed as well.
I was going to say, not a bad replacement.
Oh, I love Charmed, but, like, it doesn't have...
It's not the same.
It's not as relatable, and we'll talk about the queer aspect of Buffy, of course, as this episode goes on. But so basically, but I had a cousin and an aunt who like watched the show religiously, and they would just tell me about it. So like, my dad didn't watch Buffy, like, but he was the one that would always tell me the plots of R-rated movies, just so I could like play them in my head. So my cousin and my aunt did this for me, and basically when they started showing reruns on FX, it was either at 5 and 6 in the morning, or it was at 6 and 7 in the morning. But I would wake up early for school specifically so I could watch 2 episodes of Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Whoa, that is some dedication.
I also had a friend at school who was super, like, she was doing the slash fiction for Buffy the Vampire Slayer because that was really a thing at the time.
Oh man, this is a show that message boards were created for.
Yeah.
So I started watching those FX reruns probably around the time season 5 or season 6 was airing. And I had actually heard the soundtrack for this show, for this episode, before I had even like made it through the first season of Buffy. And I literally just like listened to this soundtrack every day on repeat for a full year. FX would actually show the episodes in order. So like I could like, it was literally like I was watching 2 episodes a day,
right,
5 days a week until I caught up. But as we'll talk about again, this episode is long. This episode ran for 1 hour and 8 minutes with commercial breaks. And so when they show it on FX, they actually cut out some of the songs.
What?
Yes.
Yeah, I've seen that version. It's dreadful. It's really bad.
They cut out Tara and Giles' reprise together.
Okay, that's kind of important.
Yep. They cut out after Anya does her bunnies thing, and Sarah Michelle Gellar comes in with her, what can we face if we're together? That bit's cut out.
Stunning
something
vocals.
Something else is cut out, but nevertheless. So I literally took until I could fork up the money for the season 6 DVD set.
Yes.
Before I saw the show
They
in
were
its entirety.
expensive. They were expensive at the
Yeah,
time.
they're $50 a pop.
Yeah, back in the old days, man.
They were so big too, right? They were
Yeah.
these big hulking DVD boxes.
I remember getting so mad when they re-released them as skinny
Yes.
options,
Yeah.
and I was like, you motherfucker.
Don't even get me started. Like the levels that I went through of like different various physical media of this show. Like, so the way that sort of TV worked when I grew up is we had like, you have your like basic 5 channels, and that's all we had in my house. And then there was Sky, which is sort of like cable.
Oh, that's
or
premium.
whatever. Yeah, exactly. And we couldn't afford that. We didn't have that. And so I was watching Buffy on BBC Two, and it used to show sort of around 6:45 p.m. after school, and I'd record the episodes off the TV onto VHS tapes, and I had like stacks of those. But the show was maybe like a season and a half ahead on Sky, so there were people at school that were like ahead of me.
Spoiled.
Yeah, for sure. And so I ended up getting my neighbors across the street that could afford Sky to record those episodes onto VHS for me. So I'd go across the road to their house with a VHS tape and be like, hi, can you record? And then we'd come and pick it up, and then we'd watch the episode. And that's how I watched Once More with Feeling.
all of the Gen Zers listening to this right now are like, what did he just say?
Which is why, like, every time somebody says, oh, where can I find that on streaming? I'm just like, you don't know how I've suffered.
The lengths I'd go to. And I had all of them, and then I ended up buying them all on VHS in the box sets where, like, all the images on the front would match up, which was amazing. But they'd come in, like, half seasons.
Yes.
So you would spend so much money. And then I sold all of those, which I wish I hadn't now. I wish I'd kept them, but...
Collector's items.
Exactly. To then get the DVDs, to then sell those again, to just get the one little sort of, like, box set that came out. So I've had it... Yeah. I've owned Buffy in full maybe, like, 4 times.
Ugh. But I remember the thrill of going to buy a new season and just being able to, like, fold out that giant monstrosity of, like, 6 flaps.
Yeah.
Oh, God, the feeling. And just being such a completionist, right?
Yes. And the booklets with the episode names. And I totally bought the Chosen collection when it finally came out. Which is just the whole series as a whole. But
yeah.
Oh, man. Good times.
Right?
Okay, so before we maybe dig into the production of this particular episode, let's talk about why this show appeals to queer people. Because I feel like there are very few queer people who have seen the show and don't feel an innate connection to it. And I'm curious as to why you think that is. Because the show creator, Joss Whedon, who unfortunately has...
Yeah, okay. Everyone, we are aware. Joss Whedon is a not great person.
Yeah.
Me personally, I think maybe both of y'all will agree with me on this, that I don't think that should take away from the good that this show has done.
Absolutely not.
And I kind of want to leave it at that. Like, I don't think we need to delve into Joss Whedon's terrible behavior because everyone's aware, and if you don't know, you can go Google it.
Yeah. And the show is so much more than him. He is an instrumental voice. He is the writer and director of the episode we're going to talk about today. But at the end of the day, this is a show that was created by a lot of really talented people. And a lot of those really talented people have gone on to create other fantastic works of art. Oh, yeah. And when you distill it down into one person being responsible for everything, I think you overshadow the contributions of others.
Well, I think that's such a good point because my thoughts on Joss is that the positive you can take from it is that it's sort of like, it's a cautionary tale. It's a lesson in not to sort of like, I guess, worship false idols. You know, you can't say that this one person is God. You can't say, you know, hashtag Joss is boss. Like, you can't say that, like, you know, an entire show and then all the spin-offs and movies and everything was single-handedly created by this one sort of godlike presence. You're ultimately going to be let down because every human being is flawed and fallible, and I'm not excusing anything that he's done or been alleged to have done or whatever, but it's just remembering that, like, guys, keep your feelings in check when it comes to, like, the content and things that you take in, because nothing's perfect. It's not going to be.
And also because, I mean, just because I'm sure we'll get a couple when we post for this episode. People are going to be like, yeah, but Joss Whedon's a piece of shit. And it's like, I'm
we
aware.
know.
I'm aware.
we get it. We know.
Yeah, pause the tweet. We know. Okay, so come back then. So the queer connection, because Joss Whedon is a straight man. There's, you know, any number of queer people who have been involved in the show. Like, you know, we could say, oh, well, the choreography on this episode is done by Adam Shankman. So there we go.
Yes.
I'm curious, though, like, why is it that we as queer people connect with this?
Maybe I'm assuming wrong. I think we're all going to be on the same page here. Like, outside of the explicit queer content in Willow, specifically the Allison Hannigan character, I just think the idea of Buffy as a Slayer, and the show does this as well, is extremely queer. You know, she is born this way, literally. She's born a Slayer. She cannot change who she is. And of course, the show hammers home this idea of, like, you know, of linking that to being in the closet in the season 2 finale when her mom is like, have you tried not being a Slayer?
Oh my God, I fucking love it. I love it.
So good.
It's so good, but it's also, and you know, she makes her own family. It's this idea of the chosen family.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, with the Scooby Gang. And so, I mean, for me, I don't even know if I realized this when I was watching it the first time. I think it's definitely something that I came into to realize later as I was, like, really kind of, I don't know, diving into my own queerness. But for me, that's what it is. I just think the basic concept of this show, and even though Buffy herself is not queer...
Well, she is in the comics.
Yes.
Yeah, there you go. But I mean, the parallels are 100% there. So I think again, if you are a queer person, you can find something to relate to here. even if, and when we're talking about explicit queer content, the show didn't always handle things perfectly, but that's also a product of the times.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, if I answer for all of y'all, so by all means, if y'all wanted to add to that.
Oh, no. You hit the nail on the head there. I think exactly what you said about chosen family, and you kind of maybe aren't aware of it when you're younger. Mm-hmm. But I know for me, it was like, those times that were maybe difficult at school, or like you felt like you maybe didn't fit in. It felt like within the world of the show, the relationships were so sort of well written that you felt like you were like one of the Scooby Gang too, and you felt included. Yes. And I think that's why the show works so well.
Yeah.
Even the different character types, right? Like you were sometimes a Xander, or you were having a Willow kind of day. And when it all comes together, like I think we all hope to be Buffy, but even Buffy herself is fallible and prone to failure and doing things wrong. I love in this episode where she actually mentions that she's been known to be righteous because, like, holy hell, does Buffy sometimes stand on a soapbox and bitch and moan and yell at other people. And that's part of what makes the show so relatable to me. And I think then if you want to even distill it down another level for gay men in particular, here is this super strong female character who gets ostracized when she moves to this new school. She gets bullied by a character named Cordelia in the early seasons, and she is powerful and she has something to give. And as you both said, she makes her own chosen family, but there's something so appealing as a queer person about the idea that you have a hidden strength and a value that people don't appreciate or they don't yet understand. And then she's also just a fucking kick-ass, powerful woman. We're repeatedly told that she and her mom are quite cheap, like they don't have a lot of money, and yet her fashion, she never wears the same outfit twice because it's network television, but she's got her stylish but affordable boots, and I just think she's an icon, right?
Oh, she absolutely is. And as well, for me, I can only speak for myself on this, but she's still feminine and girly and likes things like that. And I liked those things as well. And it was nice to be a boy and, watch a show where you can put yourself in the hero position without having to feel like I've got to be like super macho about it. Like she can be emotional and she can be feminine, and those things I enjoyed as a kid and often felt shamed for feeling. And so to see that happen in the character that you love, you're like, oh, I can be like that as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I mean, and we glossed over Cordelia, but I do want to point out, though, I mean, like, we have the Scooby Gang, but, like, I don't know about y'all, but like, my favorite character on the show is actually Anya.
Of course.
I aspire to be Anya. I want to be Anya so fucking bad.
That tracks.
Sometimes you have the political sensitivity of Anya. Yeah.
Oh.
The love of money.
For listeners, there is an episode where Anya is like checking someone out at the music box and the magic box, and she's like, "Thank you, please leave."
And Trace is like, "Yes, #relatable."
But Cordelia and Anya. I mean, again, they're because Anya came in as a replacement for Charisma Carpenter, but like the bitchiness of those characters, and again, there's something about watching a character who is evil or bitchy, depending on which one you're talking about, progress with the show and become and soften and grow as a character. And that was what was so fun about this show. And even in season 6, where we're watching characters we love do not great things and endure not great things. That's the magic of serialization. Like, I just love growing with these characters. No matter what point in your life you're in, even if you're not, if you start the show at the age of 40, I can guarantee you can still find something that you can connect with in these characters.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because you've got the character of Giles as well. Like, I find the older I'm getting, the more I'm like, Giles knew what was going on.
Oh my God. Sexy fucking taster's choice, Anthony. Oh, God. I mean, what? Yeah.
Well, okay, why don't we get into some of this production history? Because I know we're already 30 minutes in. But luckily the movie is not 2 hours long. So, okay. With this episode, I tried to look this up because obviously this episode of television did inspire kind of a wave of musical episodes and TV shows.
God, so many bad ones too. Like, just because you're Grey's Anatomy doesn't mean you need to do a fucking musical.
I knew you were going to bring up Grey's Anatomy.
I'm sorry, but the Scrubs one is actually good.
Oh, Scrubs is good. Yeah.
Scrubs is super good. The worst musical episode of television I've ever seen is the Seventh Heaven musical episode.
Oh my God.
And didn't Xena do one as well?
Oh, I don't know about that.
I bet that one would be good, though.
I mean, well, I was trying to see what came before this, and Ally McBeal's season 3 finale was a musical.
Okay.
And that would have aired about a year before this did.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But yeah, I also hard agree on Scrubs Show. That episode is great. And I think what makes those episodes, I mean, outside of just the good songwriting and dancing and choreography and shit, both Buffy and Scrubs offer a narrative reason for people to be singing.
It's very helpful, especially for folks who are resistant to musicals. And of course, we addressed some of this when we tackled Phantom of the Paradise. You know, musicals are an acquired taste, but it does help, when you've got a narrative that helps to explain why are people breaking out into song.
Yeah. So Joss Whedon had always wanted to make a musical episode since the start of the series back in 97. This was heightened during the 5th season when he hosted a Shakespeare reading at his house, to which the cast of the show was invited. They began drinking and singing, all of them demonstrating to Whedon, unknowingly so, that certain cast members did have musical talents. Mm-hmm. So he was like, okay, I'm going to have to write a whole score. It's going to take weeks or months. So during the first 3 seasons of Buffy, he was unable to take more than 2 weeks off at a time, and the constraints of writing and directing the show basically just stopped him from doing it.
Right.
So eventually he spoke to the show's producer, Gareth Davies, about the idea, and they were like, oh my god, yes, we should do that. So Whedon spends 6 months writing the music for this episode, and he returns after the end of the 5th season, presents Davies with a script and a CD, which I think is him and his wife. He learned to play guitar to write the music.
Wow.
It was like a rough cut of just the two of them like playing and singing the songs. Not very well, but some of them are on the soundtrack that you can actually get on vinyl or CD.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they are.
Okay.
And so preparing for the episode was physically difficult for some of the cast members, most of whom had very little experience singing and dancing. They spent 3 months in voice training. 2 choreographers worked with Whedon and the cast on dance sequences. Wow. Michelle Trachtenberg, who plays Dawn, she is naturally trained in ballet, so she was like, hey, can I have a dance number instead of a song? And so...
Which I think works great, by the way.
Oh, it absolutely fits in with Dawn as well.
Oh, right, this prissy ballerina.
Oh, and the fact that it's like, no one wants to hear you sing, Dawn. Yeah. I love Dawn, but at the time...
Universally hated character. Yeah.
She was, and so, like, I think that was sort of a bit... Like, she gets 2 lines, does anyone even notice, does anyone even care? And then gets cut off, gets kidnapped.
I mean, compared to Miss Allison Hannigan, who, I mean, it's no secret that she is not the best singer, but she actively was terrified of singing and told Whedon, like, please give me as few lines as possible. Which is why she does get a literal filler line towards the end of the episode.
Oh my god, I die. That's one of my favorite lines of possibly the entire episode. But I mean, I love Allison Hannigan, but the way she delivers it.
Sarah Michelle Gellar, and I actually think that Sarah Michelle Gellar like gets off pretty well with the singing here, and she does have the most to do.
Yeah,
she told the BBC, Josh, your place.
You know, Josh, you're noted owner of the BBC.
Yeah, I live there. It's my home.
It apparently took something like 19 hours of singing and 17 hours of dancing in between shooting 4 other episodes.
Ugh.
Gellar said she was so anxious about the singing, she hated every moment of it, to the point at which Whedon even suggested, well, we can use a actress to dub over your singing parts. And if anyone has seen My Fair Lady with Audrey Hepburn, you know that does not work very well. To this, and this makes me respect Gellar so much more, Gellar said she started to cry and said, you mean someone else is going to do my big emotional turning point for the season?
Yeah. Because, folks, this episode is not just a standalone bar burner. Buffy is a show that does standalone episodes, but then it also has massive seasonal arcs. And this particular episode is the one that kicks off everything for season 6.
So the episode does run 8 minutes longer than any in the series, as we've already discussed. It was the most technical and complex episode the show had ever done. They used a widescreen letterbox format for filming, which is the only episode in the series to do. And also why, like, whenever people were like, oh, can you release an HD set of Buffy? And, like, Whedon has gone on record saying, no, I shot the mise-en-scène with a 4:3 ratio. Like, it will never be widescreen.
Wow.
Well, the release that's now on Prime or Disney Plus or whatever that was released.
Oh, have they fucked it up?
Oh, yeah. There's like YouTube videos of it. It's in widescreen and you can see like crew members off to the side and equipment. And
oh, God.
Yeah. Have a look on YouTube. You can see like there's just like.
And it's because, I mean, he's like, I will never change that. Like, he was very steadfast in that. So enjoy the widescreen presentation of this episode. They use different lighting to bring out the sets more vibrantly. They use long takes for shooting. There's a complicated shot with a full conversation, a song, and 2 choreographed dances that took 21 attempts to get right.
Yep.
Yeah, it is a lot. But the episode propelled, as you said, Joe, it propelled the story arc for season 6 by allowing characters to confess previously taboo issues to themselves and each other with the use of song. And that's kind of one of my favorite aspects about this show is that, with the exception of Giles's number that I don't care for, every one of these numbers are like outing all their secrets, which is such a good way to do it.
That's the point of a musical.
Yes.
So when characters sing in a musical, the reason they're singing is because words alone can't do what they need to do. Like they have to go into song, and that's why the most important moments of the episode are sort of brought across in song.
Well, and I think, because, for people that don't like musicals, I always tell them, and I honestly use this episode as a reference. I'm like, what is it about musicals that bothers you? And for some people, it just is the fact that it is music and singing. Sometimes it's the style of music, but usually it's just the fact that people are singing, period. And I'm like, okay, take the lyrics, write them down, or look them up, and say them. Because I can guarantee you that you'll like it more and you'll probably get it more. Because I understand, like, watching, when it comes to music, I've said this before, I don't really pay attention to lyrics. I pay attention to melody.
Right.
And it takes me a good 5 to 6 listens of a song, maybe even more, before I really start paying attention to the lyrics and what they're trying to say.
Right. And it's different with musical theater, too, right? Like, the background music is important, but it really is this marriage between the music and the lyrics. And I would say more so than something like songs that you would hear on the radio, where they're actively trying to get you, like, hooked on the music with choruses and stuff. Here, we're trying to, I guess, shed inner light into the characters that otherwise couldn't come out.
Yeah.
And Stephen Sondheim was a big influence. I actually have influences for every single song in the episode, but, like, while the music and the lyrics aren't as complex as Sondheim are, but, like,
no, they aren't.
No. But the manner in which plot and character development is put in the lyrics is very much, like, influenced by Sondheim.
It's interesting to me, too, because I know I've said this at some other point, and I can't remember where, but the musical numbers in musicals are the same as kill scenes in horror films, which are the same as, like, often physical comedy bits or, like, big jokes in comedies. Like, that's why the 3 act as a kind of triangle, because they're about emotional bits that come out in ways that straightforward drama cannot accomplish.
And they're the most heightened element as well.
Yes,
they're all the climax. They're the biggest moment. And I think that's why there is such a link between musical theatre and horror. You get people respond to both of them incredibly strongly. You know, some people just outright say, I don't like horror. I don't like musicals. They can't really give you a reason why. And you would think that the two things are almost the opposite of each other, but they're incredibly linked.
I mean, we say the same thing about horror and comedy. Honestly, if there's one thing we've learned from this podcast, everything is linked to horror.
Oh, yeah.
Horror is life. Just accept it, people.
So, UPN, the television network that aired Buffy's last 2 seasons, promoted the episode by displaying Geller's face on billboards with music notes over her eyes. I did not see any of this, but that is... It sounds very creepy.
Yeah, that's pretty weird.
Well, it is about how she died and then came back, so instead of doing coins, we'll just do musical notes.
The episode aired on November 6, 2001, so again, happy late 20th anniversary, and it received a Nielsen rating of 3.4 and a share of 5, which means nothing to me, but this I never understood the Nielsen ratings. This placed the episode in 6th place in its time slot and 88th among broadcast television for the week. It was the most watched program on UPN that night and the 3rd most watched program that week, only trailing episodes of Star Trek Enterprise and WWF SmackDown, although it was a decrease from the 3.7 rating received by Buffy's episode the prior week.
Well, that was a Dawn episode, so...
So people wanted to see it?
I mean, the big thing is that Buffy was never a huge hit. Like, it was actually easy for people to not pay attention to it because it was airing on small networks that a lot of people didn't even get. And
it had a silly name.
It had a silly name. People like to write it off or dismiss it outright. But the reality is that it was always a very stable player. Like, I know you said, Trace, that the previous week's episode had done better, but it's like, if you look at it, it was pretty steady with like some little fluctuations here and there throughout most of its run.
Yeah, I mean, you know, a 3.4 to a 3.7. Like, it's not a huge difference, but it's just a dip nonetheless. But I do wonder if, because I mean, my cousin and aunt who loved the show, they fucking hate the musical episode because they don't like musicals.
Right. Yeah.
But this is a bit of information I did not know, and then I'll be pretty much done with my production. So this episode was nominated for an Emmy, and I did know that part.
Mm-hmm.
But the National Academy of Television Arts and Sciences neglected to include the title on the ballots for Emmy nominations in 2002. They attempted to remedy this by mailing a postcard informing its voters that it should be included, but the episode did not win. This oversight, according to the Washington Post, was, yet again, another example of the lack of industry respect afforded one of television's most consistently clever shows. The Miami Herald vigorously protested this omission, writing, "The most astonishing, entertaining hour of TV in the past year slips by virtually unnoticed. Nothing here is real, nothing here is right." Buffy the Vampire Slayer's musical episode registers a paltry, outstanding music direction nomination. And I was always curious as to why this didn't win that Emmy, and that's fucking why!
Yeah, it's tricky. I mean, as we said, the show was easy to overlook for people who didn't want to give it its credit. And if you look back on its entire track record as a series, I think it was only ever nominated for hair and makeup. And then Sarah Michelle Gellar, maybe? I think they thought she was going to get a nomination, but she never did.
I don't think she did. And I think it was only, Hush won, but for something... Was it
might
like
have been like sound or
special
sound
effects
design,
or
right?
something?
Yeah. I mean, again, like, this and Gilmore Girls are like my big, like, why didn't these win Emmys?
Yeah, and because they're both a certain kind of show.
Yeah.
It's smart, clever shows, but shows that are primarily aimed at young women. And oh boy, as a society, do we love to bash shit that's aimed at young women.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. Nevertheless, the legacy of this episode has maintained. In 2009, TV Guide ranked the episode number 14 on its list of top 100 TV episodes of all time. For TV Guide's, TV Guide again, for their 65th anniversary, they picked it as the 5th best episode of television of the 21st century.
Wow.
And yeah, as we said, I mean, the musical episode of television has kind of become a genre in and of itself. With the exception of Seventh Heaven, which would air 4 years after this, we have the Scrubs musical, the Grey's Anatomy musical, Batman Brave and the Bold did a musical episode, and, John McPhail, the director of Anna and the Apocalypse, said that this episode was a direct influence on that film.
Oh, see, I can totally see that.
Especially with the type of music it is, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Before we get too far in, I mean, because we're going to do the plot now, can y'all just tell me your favorite song in the episode?
Ooh. I think... Oh, it's hard. I think I love the... They're all really good. I love the Giles and Tara duet just because they're the best singers and I really like them singing in counterpoint like that. But I think my favorite is probably Walk Through the Fire.
Yeah, that's mine too. I think just because it goes to so many different places, but it's also like such a call to arms anthem.
Yeah.
That's definitely the show... Well, I was going to say it's the show-stopping number, but I guess... Something to Sing About's kind of supposed to be the show-stopping number. I don't really know, but it's Xander and Anya's duet. I'll never tell.
That's brilliant
as
well.
It's so cute. It's so fucking cute.
I wanted to duet this, like, my theater talent show, but I couldn't find a version of it without the vocals on it, and I was so fucking mad. So everyone, if you can find a karaoke version of this, come karaoke this duet with me.
Mate, I will just get a friend of mine to record it for you and just sing the track. Done.
Yeah. Can I tell you one funny thing before we get into this?
Yeah.
Okay, so Buffy at a certain point was the most academically written on television show in history. It actually has its own academic journal called Slayage. Humble brag, I contributed an article. It's in there. Mine's actually not on Buffy, it's on Cabin in the Woods, but that's fine. But I went to the Slayage conference when it was in Vancouver many years ago. And one of the things that this society does when they get together in person is they do a sing-along karaoke of this album.
I mean, but that's the thing, though. Again, doing some research, like, apparently, yeah, they do midnights. I mean, like with Clue, like with Rocky Horror Picture Show, there are midnight screenings of Once More with Feeling that people just go and sing for.
Mm-hmm. I remember they tried to mount a stage show, like some independent theater, and they actually got a cease and desist from Fox.
Yeah, I remember
what
that.
What the fuck are you doing? Stupid. Let the fans have their shit. It's only going to work out better for you.
Right? Ugh. God.
Okay, well, let's get into this episode.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, as you said, it's only 42 minutes or 68 minutes with commercials, so.
Yeah.
All right. So we open with new opening credits as each character is framed in the image of the moon, and the font for the show and the episode title are both in cursive. So folks, if you watch this is also, I think, the only time in the series run where we don't get the standard opening credits in font.
You are correct. And the influence for this is just a jaunty 1950s sitcom arrangement.
Mm-hmm.
It's really special as well because one of the things I looked forward to as a fan, which you don't get this very often with television shows anymore, you don't really get opening credits. You tend to get like a title card. So this was sort of like one of the last eras where you'd get opening credits, and each season you'd have like slightly different footage, and it would give you like hints of like the first 3 or 4 episodes maybe, and I always look forward to that. And so this was even more exciting because it was a complete shift from what we're used to. So already we're like, oh, this is special, like this is a really different episode.
Yeah.
And that's exactly it. I think Whedon says on the audio commentary that he was looking for a way to both set the tone and the mood for the episode to come, but also he had to get the credits out of the way because he is like contractually obligated, I think, to put them in the episode. So he was like, how do I do this without like having credits appear over Sarah Michelle Gellar as she's singing? So he was like, this.
And he's done that before as well. He did it with The Body, I think. They did the opening credits, because they normally have a teaser before. They do the opening credits before, and he actually wrote a scene specifically that would take up the length of time of the credits, so it wouldn't go over like the more sort of traumatic elements of that episode.
I will say, too, so I visit many karaoke bar, and this is the only one, this song, this overture and Going Through the Motions is the only one that I found at a karaoke bar. The problem is, it is one track, overture / Going Through the Motions.
Oh no, the overture is way too long. You don't want that.
So when you sing it, you have to listen to the fucking overture for like a minute.
That's where you're like, okay, I need to practice my stand-up routine, or I need to learn how to dance.
I'm sorry, that is giving me like drama school flashbacks where you had to like. So I trained in musical theatre, so I'm well versed in having to stand and act when your song has a musical interlude that's far too long and you didn't take the time to cut it.
Oh shit.
It's the worst. Just staring off into the middle distance dramatically.
So we open the episode with a long take, and Whedon talks about how he used this primarily so that we would focus on the performances and the songs, and because editing is kind of like the antagonist to good musical numbers. So we get this long take, an alarm clock going off next to Buffy, played by Sarah Michelle Gellar, and then we see the household awaken as we get the overture. So we get Willow, Allison Hannigan, her girlfriend Tara, Amber Benson. There's a flower underneath Tara's pillow, and folks who have watched the episodes previous know that this is a remnant of a spell that Willow has cast, but I think it's pretty obvious even if you haven't seen other episodes.
Yeah, there's a glaring like point to it causes forgetfulness.
We also have Buffy's younger sister Dawn, Michelle Trachtenberg, and then we transition over to the magic shop where we see Anya, Emma Caulfield, and Xander, Nicholas Brendan, poring over a wedding magazine, and Buffy is just kind of off by herself drawing. This is all silent, and then we get her going in to train with Giles, Anthony Stewart Head, and then we go into our first proper number, which is Going Through the Motions, a Disney-esque ballad in the graveyard.
Yes, this is her. Well, the model for this is Part of Your World from Little Mermaid. Because I call, Part of Your World's like the I want number. It's just your heroine's like, what do you want? And what's setting forth the motion of this musical. I don't really know if this is an I want number. It's more like a I'm miserable number.
Well, she says it though at the end. I
it's the last
just
line.
want
Oh,
to
I
be
just want
alive.
to be alive, yeah.
And I think that's why it's so important that we get her staking the vamp and the dust explodes, and it's exactly like the surf going over Ariel on the rock, right?
It is, but it always bothers me with the dust because I'm like, her mouth is wide open and she's just staked a vampire in front of her.
Yeah.
So all that vampire's dust is just going in her mouth.
Girl, you're eating someone. It's cannibalism now.
It's fine. Buffy's had many vampires in her mouth, so it's all good.
Oh my god. Okay, so if you're new to this show too, I mean, this really also kind of is a good intro to Buffy herself. I mean, maybe not in this state, but like, we get her kind of being playful, but then I love the, when she saves the guy, how can I repay? Whatever. Like,
So quick and dismissive and just like, you're not even worth my time. Goodbye.
Brilliant. He's like a Disney prince,
He 100% is, yeah.
what is his costume?
Oh, yeah.
She's pretty well with fiends from hell, but lately we can tell.
Okay, you only get one more of those. You're not singing refrains from every song.
I get one line for every song.
No.
I'm fine with that.
Josh, we're going to need you to get in here. Get in here, man. Come on.
I've been humming
man.
around the house the whole day.
I actually had to listen to this while I ran errands because I was like, I can't get these damn songs out of my head.
Well, going back to even like people that don't like musicals, I think the brevity of this episode, even though it's a longer episode of Buffy, this is a 51-minute musical. And I think that, I mean, like, I'm like, oh, like, what do we have before the next song? We have maybe like a minute of dialogue before we jump into I've Got a Theory.
Yeah, I think it's a struggle for people who don't like musicals because this is not I'll get a reprieve where I'll just get regular dialogue. It's like, no, we're really doing a lot of songs in this.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Gotta make it count.
Indeed, yeah. So the next morning, the group cautiously all admits that they also have been singing, and Buffy lies. Importantly, she says that she does not remember the content of her song, which only actually happens one other time in this episode, and it's when Giles is singing to Buffy, but it's because they're kind of literally out of sync with each other.
Yeah, like that's supposed to be like a Giles is in his head song kind of thing.
Yeah. And one of the things, Tracy, mentioned that this episode should go down easier for people who don't like musicals, and Whedon specifically wrote this scene in the magic shop when they're all just talking about their relationship to what happened with the songs. It's him literally saying, hey, the characters don't like being in the musical either. They're going along with it. So get on board.
That's so clever.
So they then begin to speculate about why this is happening, and this is when we get, yes, the next number, I've Got a Feeling. And this also, I think, helps people who have maybe forgotten...
Joe,
what?
You said I've got a feeling.
Look, it could be bunnies. That's all I'm saying.
It's the Black Eyed Peas. They did an interlude on the Buffy musical.
Oh, fuck off.
Oof, no thanks.
So, again, like I said earlier, like I listened to this soundtrack because I bought a CD of it before I had ever seen the show. So I don't know how y'all relate to musicals, but like it's actually kind of hard to get into a musical soundtrack when you haven't seen the show.
Yeah.
Well, depending on the musical. I mean,
I disagree with that. I think it
Okay.
depends on the show for sure. Like
yeah.
I've listened to all of Hamilton, all the way through,
okay.
and I hadn't seen the show, but the songs are just so affecting that you kind of like you can't not listen to it from start to finish. And then Dear Evan Hansen as well. That's a fascinating one because the plot is the polar opposite to what the songs actually are. And so you're listening to like this kind of like really gorgeous like poppy score, and then you watch the show and you're like, oh,
Holy
that's a tangled web of lies.
you're gonna hate me, Josh, because I have listened to the Hamilton soundtrack and I have not seen the show, and I do not like the music at all, and I just I hate it.
No, I think that's just a preference for what type of music you like, though.
Yeah, very much so. Although, and I'm gonna throw him under the bus, my husband, who is a notorious music person, does not like that either.
Hey, that's fair. That's fair.
Well, if that one person, then that obviously must be true to everyone.
But anyway, my point was being, though, I had built in my head, like, what all these songs looked like based on just hearing the musical.
Yeah.
And the two moments where I was like, oh my god, like, what is going on, are actually both of Anya's.
Oh, sure. Yeah, because when she breaks out into this like heavy metal pyrotechnics performance, it doesn't make any sense if you don't also see what she's doing, or if you don't understand why she's afraid of bunnies, or if you don't know the backstory that she used to apparently scream, yell at Joss Whedon on set.
Well, I feel like that was playfully so, right?
Oh, sure. Like this was their way of interacting, where she would be like, Josh, what am I doing in this scene?
The other one, of course, being Anya's, look at me, I'm dancing crazy. And I had so many different versions of what her dancing crazy looked like. It is not what it actually was. But
it's not that crazy, is it?
No, it's not.
Especially when she knows what kind of number she's in. Anya, it's a retro pastiche. You yourself name it.
It's not a breakaway pop hit. Sorry, babe.
Oh, it's so good. She gets so many good lines.
Well, it's funny, too, because almost all of her lines are they're all money-based, because, of course, the character is driven by commerce and capitalism, but she knows all of these things about musicals where you're like, but you're a former vengeance demon. You shouldn't know any of this. Okay, so Buffy doesn't really join in on this song, and then she kind of offers a rejoinder where she's like, well, you know what? Whatever it is, it doesn't fucking matter. And there's this interesting piece where the song is actually used to get everyone else on board with her, and you can see that Giles is last to buy into this kind of fib.
And this is the part that's cut from the syndication run, from the reruns. Like, they cut this verse out.
Yeah, which is one of those things where you're like, you shouldn't ever be cutting things from a show because there's creative decisions as to why they're there in the first place. But, like, this is a really important part. Like, maybe cut out Dawn's rejoinder, like, does anybody see me? Does anybody care? Like, just show her getting kidnapped. We're good.
Josh did a beautiful rendition of that.
We'll get there when we get there.
Okay, so they need to find out whether or not this is unique to them, because of course a lot of things happen in Sunnydale, but some things only seem to happen to the Scooby Gang. So Buffy peeks her head out, and we get David Fury, who is a co-executive producer on the show, singing The Mustard. And it's one of my favorite moments, because this and Marty Noxon, who is another writer on the show.
Is she?
She's the parking ticket lady.
Okay, yeah, she's the parking ticket.
Yeah. I just love them because we do get reference from Dawn that they were singing about math, and all I can think about is, oh God, I would pay to hear a math musical number written by Joss Whedon, because it would just be ridiculous. But I love these inane moments. Like, if our lives were turned into a musical suddenly, can you imagine how boring the song content would be?
Oh God. Everything would be about ordering pizza, like, just constantly.
Mine would be about trying to find a photocopier today.
Oh,
wow.
God, yeah, dull.
I don't know what mine would be about.
We get that amazing line when Dawn comes in, and she's like, I gave birth to a pterodactyl. And then Anya turns
oh my God, did
like,
it sing?
Oh my God, did it sing? So good.
I will tell you, Joe, though, we do get, well, not in Buffy, but like the closest we'll ever get to a song about math in a musical number is The Math of Love Triangles from Crazy Ex-Girlfriend.
Yes. Thank you for bringing that up, because if nothing else, this is an opportunity to plug Crazy Ex-Girlfriend as a show that literally does what Buffy is doing here to a lesser extent, but they had original songs that were just like this in every single episode.
Every 2 to 3 songs, sometimes 4, every week.
And fucking bangers. Like, so many of those songs are great.
Listeners, if you start the show, because I actually got previous guest Ariel Fisher from Better Watch Out and Ginger Snaps to watch it, but I will tell you right now, for the duration of the first season, she was messaging me like, I fucking hate this character so much. I want to stop watching. And I was like, just keep going.
Shows with train wreck protagonists are such a hard sell. Which is why Buffy is such an easy sell.
For sure, but she was totally sold on it by the end. Like, when it ended, she was like, that's like one of my top 10 shows of all time. And I was like, thank you, I know.
Yeah.
But Trace, I want to know, why not The Math by Hilary Duff, your fave?
Oh my God.
Wait, I'm sorry, does Hilary Duff have a song called The Math?
If you don't know what the answer is, then just shut up and kiss. It shouldn't take forever to put it all together. If you can't do the math, then get out of the equation.
Oh yeah, she does.
What?
That's it. We never have to talk about it because Trace is obviously not the super fan I was led to believe.
Fake fan.
Writing it off of the
fan.
fake Patreon schedule.
If it wasn't on the Lizzie McGuire movie soundtrack, it doesn't live in my brain.
It's on her debut album, Metamorphosis, so...
That's not a movie soundtrack. That sounds like a regular CD.
CD.
No, my sister did have that CD, though. She really did.
Well, there you go. I'm not wrong.
Okay, so while this is all happening, Dawn is seen stealing an amulet from the counter, and then Willow and Tara make a very obviously BS excuse to leave. Knowing about the scene that's to come, I actually thought they were going to start tonguing each other's ears in this scene.
I mean, okay, we've made it an hour into this episode and have not talked about the fact that there is cunninlingus in this network television show. Queer cunninlingus, nonetheless.
Gotcha. Oh boy, did it piss people off too. I mean, parent television watch groups actively hated Buffy for a lot of different reasons, but the show is infamous for having the only sustained lesbian relationship for many years.
Mm-hmm.
Trendsetter.
I will tell you too that, I mean, like, so actually, I'm sorry. What do y'all think of Under Your Spell? Do we like this song?
Oh, I love it. It's sweet.
Mm-hmm.
It's really sweet, but also when you know the context of it, and watching it today earlier, I was like, ooh, yeah,
Holy
okay.
shit.
This is really kind of disturbing, actually.
Yeah.
Because for those of you that don't know, what's happened is Willow has cast a spell which has sort of wiped Tara's memory.
Mm-hmm.
So when Tara's singing the song, I'm Under Your Spell, and singing about how perfect their relationship is and how Willow is the one that's like made her blossom and grow into the woman that she is.
Yeah.
It's actually all a lie because she's literally under a spell.
Yeah.
Which Willow's, I mean, I guess because, I mean, not to get into the whole thing, but, you know, the whole magic being as a metaphor for drug addiction thing. I'm like, well, Willow's really dumb for not thinking that someone is going to reference this fight. But I guess when you put in the drug addiction metaphor, like, that's like, you know, why would she think about that? Why would she care? She wants immediate satisfaction.
Yeah, for
well,
sure.
I know one of the criticisms, and the show is not without its share of criticisms, like, we can talk about the depiction of black people in California that does not ever appear on the show. But one of the criticisms that specifically lesbians had of the show in the early seasons was magic was used as a metaphor for Willow's burgeoning sexuality. And then sometime in season 6, that actually shifts and it becomes a metaphor for addiction. And it's like, ooh, that's not a good look.
Especially when it's based, the show itself, the whole sort of concept of the show is like the monsters as metaphors. So it's constantly using metaphors for, you know, real life things. So the magic being used was the only way that they could get like the sexy lesbian stuff on TV.
Yes.
Like they wouldn't have been allowed. It's like, no, but it's not queer. No. It's magic. It's fine.
Yeah, it's just two girls holding hands and moving
Floating a rose.
Yeah, or like moving a vending machine when they're in danger.
Exactly.
Like, but it's not sexy gay. What?
No, we would never do that. But then season 6 is really interesting because it's sort of like they sort of drop the metaphors and everything just becomes like one of the lines in the show, the subtext is rapidly becoming text. And that's what happens in this season. And so it falls down a little bit with that, I think.
Although I will say, as someone who obviously knew about sex, but didn't really know too much about like lady on lady oral sex, the first time I watched this episode, I was like, wait, what is happening here?
Me too.
Why is she raising up into the air? There's a very deliberate moment where Amber Benson, as Tara, looks down at her crotch as she is looking at Willow. She's like, all right, get your face down there. And it is so obvious when you know what they're doing.
She's also singing "You Make Me Complete."
I love it.
So in the episode, so it cuts off. I think it goes. She does get to say, you know, "You make me complete," like, but then she goes, "You make me," and then it cuts to Xander going, "I don't think they're even working." On the album version, I haven't listened to it in a while, but I'm 95% certain that it actually cuts off after "come." So she goes, "You make me," and then she gets to say "come" again, but it doesn't let her say "pleat." So
no, it does. It does. Don't spread these rumors. It finishes the phrase and the song ends properly.
I will say, because I used to rewatch this episode so much when I was in high school, and my mom walked in during that, and again, because she was like, "You're not supposed to watch Buffy, blah, blah, blah," but at this point I was allowed to. But she's watching this scene of these lesbians eating each other out, and my mom just goes, "What are you watching?" And I was like, "It's Buffy." "Oh my, do I need to make you not watch this again?" And I was like, "Oh my God."
Trace, turn off your eyes. Turn them off right now. Don't watch the lesbians, please.
It is. I mean, like, again, like, this aired on UPN in 2001. Like, I'm honestly surprised. This is very, I mean, it's not graphic, but it's...
No, it is. Like, it's implied sexuality of a kind that we don't even get in queer horror nowadays.
Yes.
No.
Like, literally, I just gave a talk on this, and it was like, we don't see this shit in North American shows.
Yeah.
Never mind network fucking television. It is revolutionary. Like, I cannot understate how important this scene is.
Yes.
Also, as a sidebar, I do love the transition. It's a very simple thing, but like where they're in the park and then they just kind of like dance and the scene shifts into the bedroom. I was like, oh yeah, that's a nice magical touch.
And can we talk about not only what they're wearing, but also what the backing dancers are wearing?
Oh my God. The whole styling for witches is like, it's just peasant shit all the time.
They walked out of a Ren fair.
Yeah, for sure. It's like they were on their way to work, just like. But in the background, there is one of the backup dancers. It's so 2000s, it's disgusting. She's in these bootcut jeans that are like faded down like the thigh and onto the knee. Fine, I can manage that. When she turns around, both butt cheeks are also faded, bleached white as well.
What?
Oh my God.
Go back and look, it's so bad.
We love to bleach bootcut jeans.
That is disgusting.
It's horrible. And she's in a tie-dye top.
I mean, let's not forget, like, anybody who's watching movies from, like, 2000 through maybe 2005, like, we're talking House of Wax era, we're talking any of those Dark Castle movies, like, the fashion in the early 2000s was horrendous.
It's bleak.
Even going, I mean, like, fuck, even some of those late 90s teen movies, I mean, do She's All That, Whatever It Takes, Get Over It, like, those kind of things, like, ugh.
Yeah, some of that fashion just does not age. But I will say, I think that there are a couple of iconic looks in this. Like, Anya's last act look, and also Sarah Michelle Gellar's red blouse in the final number. I think they're vitally important in terms of costume.
Yes, I agree.
Tell me if I'm just a grandpa at heart. I really want Xander's, I'm going to say silk pajamas from his number.
Absolutely. Yeah. It just means that you're a connoisseur of the 50s.
There you go.
Okay, yeah, so we leave the cunninlingus from a smash cut, go to Xander, and it's important that we acknowledge that they're trying to dance around the sexuality because they're talking in front of Dawn, who, is like a 15-year-old girl, so... But she says that they don't need to censor the sex stuff because it's actually all romantic and, like, it's singing and dancing and isn't that great? And this is when we get the introduction of actual conflict in this episode. So we're about to go into the first ad.
Wait. I'm sorry. Really quick, though. So Dawn says that, and then, like, both, like, I think everyone, Buffy, Xander, and Giles go, like, she's like, oh, it's so romantic. No, it's not.
No, it's not. Sex is not romantic.
Well, that's like I was like, wait, are they talking about the actual singing and dancing part because it's probably something evil, or are they? I always took it as they were talking about specifically the fact that it was two women having sex, and so which was a mixed message for me.
Oh, that's interesting. I could see why you would interpret it that way. I think it's just like, sex is not fun for a 15-year-old girl because you cannot handle it.
Right.
And also, sex is not fun for most of the characters on Buffy ever. So
that's
I think that's probably what they're doing. But I just think it's really sweet that Dawn is like into it. Like, she loves her lesbian moms.
She really does.
Yeah.
That whole scene with her and Tara later, where she basically explodes Tara and Willow's relationship, and it will never be repaired, and then Tara will die.
Yeah. Spoiler alert, everyone. Tara does die.
Spoilers for a 20-year-old show.
Oh, no,
Yeah.
I know.
Dawn breaks up the lesbians. Must be Tuesday.
This bitch just keeps ruining people's lives. That's why nobody likes you, Dawn.
That's why you don't get a song, Dawn.
Does anybody see me? Okay. Yeah, so then we see a man spontaneously combust after tap dancing. Apparently, this was a 2-take wonder. They didn't have the budget to have this guy do anything special, and they were like, give it a go. Okay, maybe try it again, and then they got it. So kudos to this gent.
I do like this too, because I feel like there's a stereotype. I think maybe y'all disagree, but like, I feel like there's a stereotype around musicals that, yeah, they're all like just happy, silly people dancing. When I mean, I want to say like 2/3 of the musicals in existence are like really
Not
dark
happy.
and depressing.
No. Like when you guys were talking about just listening to the music out of context of the actual show, like my kind of intro was listening to Phantom of the Opera and Les Mis, and you cannot listen to those albums and get a full, complete picture of what's happening because there is a lot of stuff that goes on in between songs. But also, Les Mis is honestly one of the most dour, like when you listen to the show.
Well, it's called The Miserables.
I know, but when you're stupid and not thinking about the French interpretation, you're just like, oh, these people have great lives in France.
I do think, though, that something like Sondheim, I'm thinking specifically of Into the Woods, because I don't have a lot of knowledge in Sondheim, but I know a lot of Sondheim is like back-to-back musical numbers, and it's just really complex lyrics. But I think in terms of musicals, like, of songs giving you plot, Sondheim does that the most. Maybe Weber, actually. I don't know. I hate Cats, so...
I mean, I think a lot of people don't love Weber.
Yeah,
it depends what you're watching. So you get different types of musicals, and what's so good about this episode is that each number sort of like draws from different types. So when we do get to Walk Through the Fire, that's our sort of like One Day More, end of Act 1, everyone's singing their individual melodies over each other and it all forms one song. With Xander and Anya's I'll Never Tell, that's very much like a 1950s throwback musical, something that you would get
Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers.
Yes.
Exactly, like a Singing in the Rain or something like that. So yeah, and some musicals are sung through, like Les Mis and Into the Woods, and then others do have a book, so you do have like spoken dialogue in between. So there's different types. Some of them are jukebox musicals where all the songs are like pop songs.
yeah.
So
Mamma Mia.
you get exactly. So you get loads of different sort of subgenres like we do in horror within musicals as well.
I love it. I love that so much. Oh, I love it. But moving into I'll Never Tell, I think a big reason I like the song, outside of the fact that it's catchy as hell,
Yes.
it's actually not a happy song.
No.
But it is presented very happily.
And I think that makes sense considering where these characters are at and what it tells us about them, right? So if you think about the book aspects, like the lyrics of this song, it's very much about who they are as characters. They're about to get married, but they both really have concerns about their longevity.
Yeah.
But in terms of the framing, it just makes it go down so much smoother. It's funny, like, I feel like you could watch this and actually misconstrue what the song is actually about because the song and the dancing is so enjoyable.
Yeah. Yes. This is such a catchy little ditty. And it's just, I mean, thoughts about Xander and Anya aside, because I have lots of thoughts about Xander. But
Oh, yeah.
Well, and actually, I did want to mention that because this song comes right on the heels of him making an extremely, like, fat-phobic.
Yeah, the flab.
Yeah, like, the reason that he's given his construction crew the day off is because he didn't want to see larger men dancing. And it's interesting that I never caught this when I watched this as a younger person. I didn't realize how awful Xander is until I got older and really started to figure out, like, oh, he's this insecure, verging on incel, mediocre, and expects the world kind of white dude. Like, he's really awful.
And he never ever, like, we'll get to this at the end, I guess, but
Yeah.
he's the reason this episode happens. And we've just seen a man sort of like burn alive, burn to death, and Xander never gets. There's no repercussion. There's no learning. There's no. Whereas all of our female characters have so many horrible things happen to them, and they're supposed to be, you know, the heroes of the show. Whereas this everyman character sort of gets away with literal murder.
I mean, look, I know, at least I've read that Emma Caulfield, like, asked Whedon to kill her off in this series finale, but it's like one of those things where I'm like, I hate that this is the end for this character and Xander gets to fucking walk off. I mean, granted, without an eye, but, like, walk off.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it should be noted that Xander is considered a proxy for Whedon himself, so when when you know where Whedon goes eventually, oh boy, some of the shit is really telling.
I mean, we'll talk about it at the end as well, but I mean, like, the end of the episode ends with this kind of gay panic joke from Xander.
Absolutely. No, it absolutely
it
does.
Yeah. And that didn't occur to me until this
No.
watch either. I was like, oh.
Yeah, it's really off-putting.
Yeah, very much.
Yeah, so I do want to shout out Emma Caulfield because, yeah, she's one of my favorite characters, and she kills this song and dance number. Like, the moment where she walks by as Xander is singing so that she can get her bit in, and then he goes, this is my verse, hello!
His eyes are beady! And then he keeps going, and then, look at me, I'm dancing crazy! But she's just, like, moving her
Doing
arms.
a Charleston, yeah.
Well, and you can obviously tell that Emma Caulfield has actually had some dance technique. I think Nicholas Brendan's actually doing reasonably well in this number, considering he apparently was not comfortable.
Oh, I think he's fine.
He's doing it as his character
As
would,
Xander,
right?
yeah,
Like,
fine.
Xander would not be light on his feet in this way.
So that's actually, that's an aspect that I like, though, and honestly kind of why I wish they would have, the Allison Hannigan would have been like, yeah, fine, let me sing, but just know that it's not going to be good. Because the spell doesn't give people good singing voices, it just makes them sing.
Yeah, which I like. It's very authentic, isn't it?
And so, yeah, I wish we had at least one number, though, of someone, like, actively being a bad singer.
Oh, that would be really funny, actually.
But I think you're also asking a lot of your actors who are already feeling vulnerable.
Yeah, no, for sure. Oh, no, for sure, and I totally get that. But even if we have like a 30-second ditty, like the parking ticket or the mustard with some random character, you know?
Yeah, you bring in a really good singer that's like a named good singer, maybe a pop star or something, and bring them in and they're
Somebody
really
who
bad.
would handle it, right? Like maybe like a Hillary Duff person or somebody like that.
So yesterday.
Oh boy, she's off tune. I hope she's having a good day.
But you are right to praise Caulfield because I think she's great. I mean, again, she's not the star of this episode, but goddamn if she doesn't steal every fucking scene that she's in this series.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Okay, so the song ends in this fit of laughter, which is very amusing considering they have just basically confessed that they have nothing but reservations about the longevity of their marriage. And then it's another comedic edit where we just cut to them telling Giles, like, he needs to fix this. They cannot be doing this anymore. Like, and this is the scene that took 20 or 21 takes because it is a long take and there's multiple small musical numbers either happening in or around them as they walk down the street. It's actually really impressive.
We get Newsies and Stomp in the background with these janitors and their brooms.
And those janitor characters are actually the 3 vampires and demon from the opening scene, and they will also be the people who played the henchmen.
Look at that.
Because they didn't have the budget for backup dancers.
But also give those dancers the work, man. Like, these, you know, for a musical theatre performer to get on TV, like, that's so rare. So it's like, yes, good for them.
Yeah.
You can apparently also see Adam Shankman performing in this part. He's the guy doing the tango.
Yeah.
So I love Adam Shankman solely because he did the Hairspray movie from 2007.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, his directing, like, normal movies, meaning non-musicals, he doesn't pick the best projects.
No, not so much.
But he has a forever pass for me because of Hairspray.
Oh, Hairspray is probably one of the best modern musical to film
Yes.
adaptations ever.
It's
so
just
fun.
glorious. It's wonderful.
And I think he choreographed the movie too, so I think he directed it and choreographed it.
Oh, yeah,
Believe
for sure.
so, yeah. Okay, so we get a Dutch angle as Buffy comes into Spike's lair. Spike is played by James Marsters, and folks who don't know, he is styled after Billy Idol, but also the Lost Boys. See previous episode.
Oh, literally last week, yeah.
There we go. I feel like a representative sample of Buffy-esque dialogue is when he goes, oh, so you're just here to pump me for information. And she goes, what else would I want to pump you for? I really just said that, didn't I?
That's why the WB gave the warning on the show. And the cunninlingus.
A lot of people give the show credit, but a lot of people just write it off as teen poppy fare, and it doesn't really have much going for it. But, you know, when you look at this episode, we're referencing musical styles from over 50 years. We've got intricate wordplay in both the songs as well as the regular dialogue, choreography. Like, this is a hella ambitious show. And I don't even know what else to say to get people on board with it, but it's like, this is not your average TV show.
No, not at all. I really feel like for a lot of people, it's just that first season is such a hurdle because it's a hint of what the show would become, but I don't think it's reflective of what the show would become.
Mm-hmm. So, Trace, you mentioned that you don't love Giles's song. I will admit I don't love Rest in Peace, which is Spike's song. I also don't really feel like it moves the narrative ahead all that much. Like, we know that he's in love with her and she feels uncomfortable with that.
Yeah, this song is fine. Definitely not one of my favorites either.
I think it's very fan servicey, shall we say? I feel like, I don't know how you feel about Spike's character. I have my thoughts, but I feel like it was almost impossible at a point to remove him from the show because the actor and his character was so popular and so sort of intrinsic to the way the show ran in its sort of like latter 3 seasons that this song doesn't move the plot along at all. It's all the same stuff that we know, but you can't not give Spike a song, and also James Masters because he was one of the few
who can actually
actors
sing.
that could legitimately sing.
Yeah.
Because he has a band.
Also, I'm
Ghost
pretty
of
sure
the Robot.
I think he's a native Texan.
Yeah, he is not British.
Yeah.
Which I feel like you don't know until you see him in interviews, and then it sounds like he's speaking incorrectly.
Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah, it sounds off, like very, very off. And I'm sorry, he was born in California. He's not a Texan, but I don't know why
he's
I
American.
He's Texan.
You want to take ownership of him. We got it.
Which is interesting because his British accent isn't actually spot on, but he just sounds like Spike. Like, I grew up listening to him as a kid and never thought, oh, he's not doing a British accent. And it kind of makes sense as well because he's like a 100-plus-year-old vampire that's like lived around the entire world.
Yeah.
So his accent's gonna like...
It's a culmination of a number of different dialects, right?
For sure. So I never get nitpicky with things like that at all. I'm never a big sort of like accent person.
Yeah.
It's just that's how Spike speaks.
Interesting. I like that, so thank you. I've actually never thought about that.
Well, this is the power of genre, too, right? Like, when you got a vampire who has lived for any number of years, then you can say, sure, they have lived numerous experiences, and therefore I can do whatever the fuck I want with this person.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so we cut back to Buffy's house, and this is where Tara learns that she has had her memory wiped by Willow. Good job, Dawn. So she's like, cool, look after yourself. I'm going to go and look something up in a book.
So, hey, I'm not like a Dawn hater, but I will tell you right now that Whedon was doing no favors to Dawn as a character when he gives her lines like,
belly rumblings.
the belly rumblings, whatever. I'm like, who the fuck can deliver that line good? Like,
I'm sorry I cut you off. If you want to say that line in full, you can, but it makes me cringe.
I don't know the line.
So
I just know that
bad.
it gives me belly rumblings when, like, to see you guys fight or something. I don't know, but it's so...
No, that's it. I wrote
It
it
is
down.
so fucking bad, and I'm just like, well, Jesus Christ. Like, if you knew people didn't like Dawn, give her lines better than this shit.
I think it's codifying her as a very infantile, right? Like, it's
Exactly,
important that
yeah.
we have this Disney-esque number that opens the show because in some ways, like, Dawn really is a traditional damsel in distress. Like, her narrative arc will be such that she wants to become a Slayer in future seasons because she wants to have agency. Like, she is tired of being the girl who gets kidnapped on Tuesday nights.
Yeah.
And she was originally written to be 12, and I think that
They never aged her up.
they never aged her up. Like, she is 14 when the show begins, and I
Right.
think they aged up the character just because of Michelle Trachtenberg, because they liked her, and I think
Right.
Sarah Michelle Gellar knew her from like back in the
Soaps or
soap
something?
days,
Yeah.
and brought her on, and they liked her. So, but they never quite aged her up, so she always feels a little bit younger than she should be, which is quite annoying considering Buffy starts the show 15, 16.
Right.
All of those characters, they're so sophisticated.
Yes.
And then to have like this baby girl running around, it's kind of insufferable. But it's not the fault of the actress or the character, it's just the way that...
Yeah.
She's just badly written.
Well, she's well written, but she's just written
For a
Too
12-year-old.
young.
for the wrong
Yeah.
age, yeah.
Well, but that's I didn't know that, and that actually makes so much sense.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of annoying because, you know, how often do we say, oh God, they introduce a kid, you ruin everything, right?
Yeah.
And I feel like if they had made her 15, like, I mean, written her like a 15-year-old, that would have worked so much better. Oh God.
And what I think would be lovely, not to get into, I wish it was like this, but I wish it was like The Fact. It would be really cool, I think, in this season particularly, all of the 20-somethings are kind of like losing their shit and like their lives are falling apart. And it'd be amazing if Dawn just had this like subplot where she's like absolutely fine, well-adjusted, like sassing about high school, like living the dream.
Killing it. She's like, oh, I'm where you were 5 seasons ago.
Yeah, I'm season 1 Buffy Dawn. And she's just thriving in Sunnydale High or wherever. Like, it would just be really fun, but we don't get that. We get kleptomania Dawn.
Indeed, yeah. So this is apparently paying off a couple of episodes of worth of her stealing various items. So we get the revelation that, yeah, she is in fact a klepto. She immediately is then kidnapped by these marionette-headed kind of henchmen.
I mean, they look like Slappy from Goosebumps.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then we get the Dream Ballet.
Yes. Dream Ballet.
I like the ballet. I do like it.
Mm-hmm.
Me too, and that's another staple of musicals as well. You get that moment where the dialogue and the lyrics stop and we just tell the story through dance and through movement. And the reason that they used to do that in these old movies was it allowed the directors and the choreographers to do things that were really outside of the box.
Yeah.
And to be really extravagant in what they were doing. Because even though characters are bursting into song, a lot of them are still sort of grounded in reality. A lot of them take place on stage. You know, you've got Singing in the Rain, 42nd Street. Like, they take place within a theatre, a lot of them. And so it allowed them to go even further with the visuals and stuff.
Right. Mm-hmm. We should note that this is the only part of the episode that contains a score that Whedon didn't work on. So this is by Chris Beck. So he does this kind of instrumental piece, and I think it's lovely. Then we end with her getting sort of tossed towards the stage at the bronze, and we're introduced to our antagonist. So we're 2 acts into this 4-act structure, and we finally meet Sweet, who is played by 3-time Tony Award winner Hinton Battle, who sings What You Feel. And honestly, if I picked a second song that I loved, it is this motherfucker, and I hate jazz.
I love this song, and I mean, while I would love to sing I'll Never Tell It karaoke with another partner, because of my vocal register, like, let's ignore the fact that I'm tone deaf, but like, it fits my vocal register. Like, I sing this song so often. I can't really hit it's not that he goes falsetto, but it's like when he does the inhale. Yeah. I can't do that.
Actually, that wasn't too bad.
That wasn't too bad. That's the one thing I was going to say, like, the way that the score is written for all of the vocalists, it's so low. Like, the way that, like, Nicholas Brendan is singing, he's just like, like really, really low in their voices. It might be based around maybe Joss's range when he was writing the songs, or maybe just the actors were very insecure with where they could go. But I'm sure they can all the songs can maybe go up a tone or two and would work so much better. That's my one thing, because they're kind of grumbling around in the bass so often and never really get to like sing out fully. But this song works in this register because of
because he's a fucking trained.
Oh yeah.
So, because I was like, oh, like, what did he win Tonys for? His 3 Tonys are all for Best Feature Actor in a Musical, and his first one was for playing the Scarecrow in The Wiz in 1975.
I mean,
oh shit,
what a legend! Originated the role.
Yeah.
And then did he win for Miss Saigon as well?
He did.
Do you know? Yeah. Icon.
So one of the criticisms I mentioned earlier, that Buffy doesn't have a great track record with portraying people of color. And Hinton Battle is a black actor. And of course, some people were like, so you never give prominent roles to black characters on the show, and then you introduce this iconic villain in this classic episode, and then you cover him in makeup and put contacts in. So like, it's not even his eyes. I feel like you can still tell, not just because of the zoot suit costuming, which is obviously like a little bit more associated with Chicano culture, but there is that association with like people of color.
I mean, I understand the criticism, but at the same time, I'm like, yeah, but like all the demons have prosthetics and makeup and stuff. So it's like, I get it, but I'm also like, well, were they just going to have him, I don't know, not have makeup, put horns on him?
I mean, you could have. Yeah,
I guess I
you just solved the problem. I did it. I'm a miracle worker. I solved it.
You took down his ponytail and took off his glasses, and you were like, exactly.
So one of the things that I feel like I never caught on until literally this rewatch is that this is meant to be a bit of a sexual initiation. So obviously Sweet is here because he's going to collect Dawn as his bride because we're led to believe that she has summoned him. But even like the way that they dance, I was just thought that Michelle Trachtenberg, because she's a trained dancer, I was like, oh, she really gets into it here. But it's like, oh no, this is...
They're grinding.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, he's using his power to he like awakens her hips, and he awakens her, like the way her body sort of comes to life within this number is completely intentional. Yeah.
Yeah. And honestly, like, he's a trained professional, she's a trained professional, and the way that they move together, like, it's icky because of the implied age difference of the narrative, but they fucking move well together.
Yeah.
So Sweet then confirms, she has summoned him. The whole town is going to spontaneously combust, which...
Combust?
Combust?
I actually like that.
I'm a friend of Xander's here.
Full mouth. And Whedon has confirmed that this was his, like, even when Sweet opens this magical door to nowhere and a body falls through and then it evaporates, he wanted it to have malice and menace and also have an aura of kind of Looney Tunes nonsense. Which I can see, absolutely.
I mean, he rips his mouth off.
Yeah, very true.
Dawn's just like, this isn't the weirdest thing I've ever seen. Hi, I'm a mystical key that was turned into a human being, so come back to me next week.
Exactly, she's from Sunnydale.
Yeah, thank God they don't reference the key stuff in this episode, because new viewers would be like, what?
What? I'm sorry, she's not a real girl?
Could you imagine at the end of the song, she's like, my sister's the Slayer. Oh, and I'm the key. By the way.
A mystical energy that the priest turned into a human. Okay.
It just goes off.
Yeah. So he gets very excited and decides to change plans when he finds out that, yes, Buffy is in fact the Slayer. So then we hop back to the magic shop so that we can get Giles's number standing. And I think even if you don't love the song, Anthony Stewart Head is obviously a great singer, but I love this as a different kind of musical number because I find Buffy doing extreme slow-mo training to be very fun to watch.
Oh, so good. Apart from the punches on the bag.
Oh, yeah. I'm like, girl, I know that you're
6
not
seasons.
super trained, but like, surely your stunt double has trained you better than this.
Yeah, I mean, those little like, I'm like, you were going to break your wrist. They are so bad. But she's giving it high kicks and stuff, which look great though. So.
Well, that's because that's not being done by Sarah Michelle Gellar anymore.
Maybe, but her face is in it, so maybe they're like superimposed or something.
Okay, definitely not the backflips.
No. Absolutely not. She was in her trailer.
So as we're singing this song, this is intercut with Tara uncovering Willow's duplicity. She's looking through the books, and then this is where we get the combination of Under Your Spell and Standing.
This is great. This is a fantastic reprise.
I think it's because it's the two best singers who aren't named Hinton.
Yeah, that is correct.
When you think about it, these two are actors, first and foremost. Obviously, they both have the ability to sing, but it's not something that you expect. Like, it was interesting to comb through reviews for this episode, and the number of people who are like, oh, I didn't expect that from Amber Benson. That's like, well, A, why would you? Because you've never seen her sing on the show. But also, she knows how to sing. If you knew anything about her, then you would already know that. You wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, it's her line where she's like, wish I could trust that it was just this once, but I must do what I must. I can't adjust to this disgust. We're done. It's so fucking good.
Well, it's because she gets to sing out because the song isn't like grumbling around on the bass. Like she actually gets to sing, and it's like that kind of register that she's singing in is sort of like it's more impassioned and it's more thrilling to listen to. But it's interesting that Anthony Head is one of the better singers. It makes more sense because of his British roots. Like over here, there is more. You come up through theatre.
Oh yes, okay.
You know, you're not just on a soap and be so far removed. Like a lot of the training that people have here, regardless of whether they end up on stage or television or film or whatever, you have to be able to sing to a degree to get on into these like drama schools and these places where you train, whereas I think in Los Angeles particularly, it's very focused on film and TV, and that's a completely different way of acting and using your voice and all of that. So it makes sense that he can sing as well. And James Masters apparently started in theatre too, which is probably why he can sing as well.
Mm-hmm.
Also, oh my God, Josh, we get it. You're just better than us, okay? Message received.
Hey, we didn't make Buffy the Vampire Slayer, though, did we?
We did not.
Oh, but you almost made Rupert, and I still am pissed off that the Giles spin-off show never happened.
That would be amazing. Rupert. I was like, Rupert? Like the bear? But no, you mean Ripper.
Also that. Rupert. There we go. Thank you.
That would be amazing. I still want that to happen.
Right? Yeah. He's not that old. He still looks exactly the same.
Yeah, he could fully do it.
We actually just saw him in a movie at Fantastic Fest. He's in a vampire movie from Ireland, and he plays someone who is hunting vampires.
He's very funny in that.
Yeah,
Nice.
He's very good.
Okay, so the group comes together when the henchman delivers the news that Dawn has been kidnapped. Yes, this is when we get the meta-textual line that Dawn is in trouble and it must be Tuesday, because of course the show airs on Tuesdays. Ha ha ha.
Oh,
Very good.
I never got that, but I just thought it was okay, that makes sense.
And she got kidnapped the episode before as well.
Oh God, of course she did.
Ah.
It's like, you're blowing my mind.
That's the one with the Halloween date, right?
It is, yeah, all
Okay,
the way.
Oh, I hate that one.
Yeah, it's not very good.
Yeah.
I mean, hate is a strong word. I like nearly every Buffy
Yeah.
episode.
It's a Dawn episode. Like that's what it is.
Exactly.
There we go. There's going to be all these Dawn fans who are going to write in and be like, she's the best character on the show and you need to shut the fuck up.
I love her. I
mean,
her.
I do. I like Michelle Trachtenberg a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's fun to watch this and then watch something like Black Xmas where you're like, oh, okay, she has range.
Oh, for sure.
She's just kind of trapped in the Dawn role for a lot of Buffy's run.
I'm sorry,
She
Harriet
is.
the Spy much? Like, hello.
Yeah, and Gossip Girl.
Oh my God, Georgina
yeah,
Sparks.
right. There we go. Talking about a mega bitch, yes.
Oh, that was so good.
So because of their respective issues with Buffy and Willow, Giles, Tara, and Spike are basically uninterested in helping in Dawn's rescue. So Buffy decides to go out by herself to confront Sweet, and this is where we get Walk Through the Fire.
I touch the fire and it freezes me.
And supposedly,
Love it.
I mean, I haven't seen West Side Story in a very long time, although we will all get a chance to see it soon in
Yes.
Steven Spielberg's version.
It's tonight, isn't it?
Yes, it's
Yes.
the Tonight Quintet from West Side Story.
Yeah, which is a legitimate banger of musical theater, if we're going to be honest.
For sure.
Mhm.
I love this song. It's my favorite.
It's so good.
I love it, and so my sister does not like Buffy. She fucking hates it, but she has seen more episodes than she would like really care to see.
Because you forced them upon her.
Oh, I absolutely did. She does like this episode, but literally, like, so she loves this song, and so every now and then, like, of course, back when we lived together, but even now, she'll just whisper to me and go, "I touch the fire and it freezes me." And sometimes she'll text it to me.
I love that.
That is such a sibling thing to do.
It's like, hey, you know
Just
what?
comes up to you and whispers.
What? I touch the fire and it freezes me.
fire.
Freezes me. And then just leaves.
Yeah.
You just find yourself out and about one day, you're walking the dogs, and it's like, I touched the fire. Where are you? Where did you even come from? Get
Just
out of
send
here.
like an audio text in iMessage.
Yeah.
I love that. Everyone do that to Trace.
This line's mostly filler. It's like Buffy ASMR.
Yes,
I always like-
indeed.
The Spike's first he'll kill her, then I'll save her. No, I'll save her, then I'll kill her.
Yeah.
Again, vampire logic. It really could go either way, right?
And why does he get lost? Like he's walking around and then he hops a fence and just gets lost and ends up in a dead end. It's like, how many times have you been to the Bronze,
Yeah,
Spike?
exactly.
Come on.
It's so funny though, because I can see this number specifically like on a stage with all of them in different corners of the stage, just like walking by each other, but not obviously like really by each other.
Right.
Yeah.
Just fun.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I think so much of this lends itself to a theatrical production. Like, none of the numbers are super ostentatious, right? Like, that's why we actually have the mustard song, because that's meant to be the biggest number. Yeah. And it's like, we'll just get this out of the way early so that we can focus on the characters for the rest of the episode.
When people think musical, like, that's the kind of song they think of.
Yes. Yeah. It's very Dear Evan Hansen.
No, it's not.
I didn't want to say it.
That's like a big showbiz number, not like some angsty teen.
Waving through the mustard.
Walk Through the Fire is probably closer to something like that, because it's all very like introspective, and, you know.
But yes, Walk Through the Fire is a fantastic number. It is really, really, really good.
And honestly, capping it off with the visual of the fire trucks going by is just like chef's kiss. Perfect.
Oh, yeah. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Like, what other shows were doing that? That's what I find amazing about Buffy, is like you said earlier, like, it's so ambitious, and this isn't even like the one crazy episode they did. This was like the one crazy episode they did this season. You know, we get The Body, we get Hush, we get The Gift, we get Restless, we get Conversations with Dead People, we get so many incredible episodes. Even the episode after this, Tabula Rasa, is like its own incredible sort of like standalone episode. And it's just a testament to like how hard they all worked on this show. And this is 6 seasons in, like they must have been exhausted.
And 24 episodes a season, right?
Yeah.
Like, this is back in the golden age where we were still getting really big, full seasons.
I have cried more in Buffy the Vampire Slayer than I have in any other TV series. Like, Passion from season 2, obviously The Body,
so good.
Anya's death, everything with Dark Willow.
Yeah.
I mean, God.
By the way, sorry, how come you've chosen this episode? I actually don't know why.
20th anniversary.
Is that because it's the anniversary?
Yeah, that's it.
Nice. Amazing. I don't know if you were doing like a musical season or something. I don't know.
I mean, we do try to program at least one musical each year, so this is technically our example of that. But
great.
We haven't done TV in a very long time. I mean, we're doing it on the Patreon. We've done a shit ton of horror television the last couple months.
Josh, I will tell you, I think actually you are the reason we programmed this. And I don't know why we picked this episode, but you are the reason we programmed Buffy.
Aww.
I honestly think the only reason is that we were looking at Buffy episodes and we were like, oh, it's like next year's the 20th anniversary. I mean, maybe. Again, this is like last year when we're having this conversation.
It was a while ago.
Yeah, but it's because we knew you had a musical theater background. We thought it'd be a really good fit, too.
Oh, guys.
Also, I mean, and like, granted, like, I mean, I think if we were going to do another Buffy episode, I mean, like, obviously I think The Body and Hush are the most showcasey ones, and they stand alone, so where people that don't watch the show could watch them and like they'll get it.
Right.
But even with The Body, I'm just like, oh, like, yeah, it works on a technical level if you have never seen the show before. But
yeah, but you won't get any of that emotional impact of
Exactly.
Joyce's death. Yeah.
exactly.
And even like in Hush, the big reveals in Hush is like the revelation that Riley is secretly a government agent.
Oh, for sure. And their first kiss and everything. But to be honest, you guys could probably do a whole Patreon series on Buffy. You could do like a season, an episode or something.
Don't give Joe ideas.
Our annual meeting is coming up. All right, enough talk. It's showtime. So let's bring everybody into the bronze. This is where Buffy offers herself to Sweet in Dawn's place, and then we get something to sing about. And possibly my favorite musical theater joke in the entire episode is when Giles says,
Yes. Get the backup. This is the backup line.
yeah, she needs backup. And then we get the two of them going in and dancing.
And then do you see Amber Benson like turn and like hit the beam?
No, what?
Go back. She talks about it. She's spoken about it in interviews. When she turns around and it's just ever so slightly out of frame, there's like a big beam behind her, like a pillar, and she turns and like smashes into it.
Oh no.
and then you see her sort of like standing behind it, like big grin on her face, like, and they obviously like couldn't cut it out for whatever reason because it's on Sarah, I think.
Right.
But we'll watch that back. It's really very funny.
Oh, I will do that as soon as we're done with this.
So I did mention earlier that Sarah Michelle Gellar takes off her jacket so that she can kind of like reveal this red shirt. And I mean, I don't know that it has a special visual signifier kind of connotation to it. I think Joss Whedon mentions that it is a reference to Bandwagon, but I don't know that musical.
No,
I don't know either.
I just think it's really striking, and it's something
Agreed.
where it's her getting ready to both sing and fight. And I think particularly in Buffy, costuming is often very important for telling us not just who the characters are, but also the situations that they frequently find themselves in. So I love that Buffy doesn't compromise on her fashion sense, even when she knows she's going to be killing people.
Agreed. And I do think that this song too, and Josh, maybe you're going to be better at explaining this because my brain doesn't work that way, but like I do feel like this song, at least melodically, fits like the chaos of Buffy, because I mean, like there are so many different aspects to this song.
Ups and downs, and
it goes through different time signatures, which is why it feels quite jarring, and it's probably the closest that it gets to Sondheim, where she's doing the "Where there's life, there's hope, da da da, a gift, wishes can come true, whistle while you were." It's not your standard 4/4 time, and so it feels like very jarring and jumpy, and cuts into
the whistle while always like throws me off because that's like the fastest like into that next line.
whistle while you work so hard all day. Yeah.
I don't even know how she gets some of these lines out, because you then also have to remember, oh, she's super uncomfortable singing. Like, she's been practicing this for months, but also she hates doing this. And this song is flawless. I will say, up until she has to say heaven. And it could just be my untrained ear, but it always hits flat to me.
That's deliberate.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah. Joss even says this, I think. I can't remember what it is specifically, but he makes her do like, not even a semitone, but like a microtone or something where she's heaven. It's meant to sound uncomfortable, and so it's written that way. Yeah.
Okay.
And see, that's how musicals can like convey emotion.
Right. Well, and I love too that they're all stunned, because we haven't talked about it, but the song is the revelation that Buffy was dead, but in a good place, and her friends have brought her out of that into hell, which is hell on earth, and no one knows what the fuck to do. It's like the most uncomfortable dinner party you've ever been to. And then Spike is there, and he's like, okay, well, let me tell you, as a person who is literally dead, what you ought to do is keep living. And then he says it the exact same way, but it has a completely different meaning, because he's not saying bad shit. He's saying you just push through it.
Exactly.
And yeah, this is the one where this is the reason, this song is the reason why Geller was like, no, do not dub me. Like, I have to do this myself. But
yeah. Oh, yeah.
Honestly, even her eye acting, because like I'm a sucker for the teary eyes, but like the tears don't actually fall. You can see it in her face as she's saying this, and it's such a good performance from Geller. Like, I do feel like Geller, like from people especially that don't watch Buffy, I feel like underestimate her acting abilities, because she
she
hasn't done a lot, you know, outside of Buffy that really shows her range that much. But I mean, well, Cruel Intentions, though. I mean, you know.
Yeah, but she actually got huge flack for that. Like, people thought that her acting was really bad in Cruel Intentions.
Her acting is campy and on point. Like,
right?
Yeah, she knows exactly what film she's in.
Yes.
Yes.
But yeah, no, her performance here, I just like it's crushing. Like, it is crushing, because she doesn't want to tell them this, and she's forced to anyway.
I love the idea of, like, we're stuck singing these songs and we have no capacity to hide our true emotions. Like, what a great narrative device to get out things. Like, because they all have secrets, and they all get revealed in this one episode, and then people have to live with the consequences.
But it's also interesting. Some of the secrets get revealed to the characters, and then other secrets just get revealed to us. So Buffy never learns how Giles is feeling about his relationship with her, and how he feels like he's holding her back. And Anya and Xander are like, they do a whole duet together, and neither one of them actually reveals to the other what they're actually thinking, but we now know. And it's really interesting, and almost maybe even more heartbreaking that Buffy at this point does, and it's to everybody, and everybody finds that out.
And I love too that it's on a literal stage.
Yes.
it's so many levels of chef's kiss.
And the whole song, I mean, she's saying, give me something to sing about. And that's the whole meaning of the song is that. And she finally does. And it's that revelation.
So I don't think this is the idea behind it, but I honestly always read it as, yeah, she's saying, give me something to sing about so I don't have, because she has one thing left to sing about, which is she was in heaven. And so she's like, give me something to sing about so I don't have to sing about this thing.
Right. Don't let me reveal the secret that I don't want you to know. Oh, shit. I can't help myself.
Yeah, because she keeps singing. The song goes on too long. She's out of shit.
Damn it. I should have just kept doing my spirals and my twists.
But again, to come back down on Dawn a little bit. So Spike ends the song for her, and then Dawn just steps up and goes, the hardest thing in this world is to live in it. Thanks, Dawn. We get it.
Thank you. We all saw the gift.
Yeah, she is referencing a very iconic moment. Like, it's literally before her sister sacrificed herself and died a second time.
I know.
But it's like, yeah, no, we got it, sweetie. Like, we don't need you to come in and tell us it again.
And then I love the moment as well, because this is a great moment for Willow as well, because obviously she's the one that instigated Buffy's resurrection. When she realizes, oh shit, it was me. I did this. I've caused my best friend, who saved my life countless times, has seen me through like thick and thin. I'm the one that has caused her this much pain. And then even better, we get that moment where Sweet says, oh, I smell power, and you get that sense of like fear from him about how powerful Willow's becoming. And I know at the time Willow was like the character, like she was my favorite character, I think, when I was watching it. And I loved all the witchy elements and all of that, and to see this character that was so meek become so incredibly powerful, and then have like demons, powerful demons, sort of respond to that was like a big deal. So I love this entire moment. Chills.
Well, I think that moment, too, is also the start of Willow realizing, I'm misusing my powers. I think I'm doing good. I brought my best friend back. I'm making my girlfriend forget that we had a bad fight. And it's like, this is the beginning of the end for a lot of things for Willow. She's going to have to go through some really bad times before she realizes it's a gift, but it's something that I have to wield responsibly.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're nearly at the end. This is when Sweet is like, cool, I'm going to grab my bride and check out, but I hope you all burn. And then it's revealed that it's actually Xander who summoned him. And gents, let's talk about the gay panic, shall we?
Yeah, let's.
I mean, this is always, I mean, I noticed it more like you said, Josh, in this viewing where I was like, oh shit. Because again, I hold the show up in a high esteem because of how it handles queerness, but obviously, like, you know, through a 2021 lens, I mean, I was doing some research, and I mean, even with Willow, it's like, you know, there's bi erasure with Willow because she just, I mean, becomes a lesbian. Sounds like a weird thing to say.
Well, they eliminate the idea that she was ever truly attracted to men, because technically she has a very long and important relationship with Oz, and then it's just like, no, she was always a lesbian. It's like, well, she could be bi.
But yeah, this, I mean, it's not like the worst thing I've ever seen in terms of gay panic, but when he's just like, oh, does this mean I have to come and be your queen? It's just such a, like, wash my hands of this in this otherwise stellar episode of television.
Yeah, it just doesn't play well.
It's because there's an opportunity missed. He could very easily say something different, which is like, I don't want to be your queen because you're a demon, but the suggestion is like, oh, actually, I don't want to be your queen because you're a dude.
Because, yes, exactly.
Well, and that's the same with Sweet.
Oh, yeah. Well, Sweet kind of says tempting, but the implication is that that's a bad thing as well. And so, which I find really out of character for a demon. Yeah. You know, when I think of demons, I think genderless. I think, you know, they've probably been around 1,000 years, like Anyanka. So they probably don't care about... you know, gender, men, they don't care about any of that, really. In the same way that vampires are, like, inherently queer as well. Like, you've been around long enough, you're going to experiment at some point. But it's the fact that it was very easy. They could have just swapped the line a little bit or tweaked it a little bit so it didn't come across that way. And it's still sort of positive, but he just doesn't want to, you know, go to hell with a demon, because that would be bad. Yeah. But we're conflating the two, and that's where the issue comes in.
Well, I think the line makes sense given who Xander is as a character. He's always been insecure. he's the target of bullying that is often centered around his sexuality, his meekness, his lack of ability to attract women. It's one of the reasons that I think he overcompensates and why people don't like him as a character.
Yeah.
But I really took your point when you and I were messaging offline about Sweet, because, he mentions that this is a clause that he'll waive just this once. And it's like, okay, but why? Like, take your pound of flesh, man. I don't know. I absolutely agree with you, Trace. This is a 20 years removed thing. We're looking at it through very different lens.
Right.
But it's weird from a track record point of view because the show was doing a lot of more progressive things with regard to queer sexualities.
Yeah, but I think it was always women, wasn't it?
Almost always women.
Yeah.
And I think, that's still, an element of sort of,
it's a taboo.
It's a taboo.
We don't like men doing things together because it's icky.
But with women, it's sort of, it can still be sexy and it can still bring in the male viewership and it can still
yeah, it's romantic and hot.
We did get one instance of a gay male character, and granted it was not a main character, but it was Xander's bully, which...
Right.
Who dies?
When does he die in graduation?
He dies in the mayor's attack.
Yeah, the snake gets him.
Oh my god, that fucking
He dies
sucks.
by a big phallic symbol.
Yep.
I'm just reading into that.
We're also pretending as though Jonathan is not heavily queer-coded.
Oh, no.
Andrew.
No, yeah, you are right.
I always read Jonathan and Andrew as, potential queers, and then, Jonathan doesn't really last as a character too long.
Was Andrew not explicitly queer, at least in that final season?
There's the moment in the episode where he's the narrator.
Yeah.
He suggested he has an attraction to Buffy, so...
Oh, is that when she goes into slow-mo and the wind blows in her hair?
Yeah.
But also, there's the scene where I think Willow and Kennedy are making out on the couch, and he zooms in, but he zooms past them because he's looking at, the fabulous work that Xander did rebuilding, the curtain rail or something. And I think that's the joke that, no, he's gay.
Right, because he's bypassing hot women making out.
For sure, yeah. And talking about Xander and how hunky Xander is and how strong Xander is, and so.
Right. Well, is there anything else I want to talk about with the gay panic? It is what it is, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's a bit of a whiff, and it's disappointing because it also sort of ends the episode. So yeah, we do obviously get another big group number.
Kind of?
Sort of. It's abbreviated because really there isn't even a reason for them to be singing anymore, which is part of the joke that I kind of love. And then Spike leaves because he's done with this shit. And then this is where we get the big setup in terms of Buffy's emotional arc, which is that she kisses Spike. And this will also go to some uncomfortable places for some folks, but for others, it is the other great love affair in Buffy's life.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah, because, well, I won't go into it, but yeah.
There's sexual assault in this relationship that a lot of people cannot forgive, and I think rightfully so.
Yeah. I think the final song, Where Do We Go From Here, is fine. It's just you really want a big grand musical number for your company at the end of a musical, and this doesn't really hit that note for me, but...
I think it's just because we don't get to see the full thing.
Yeah.
I really like the physicality where they all clasp hands and then they break apart, because I'm like, oh my god, I feel like I've seen that in a bunch of different shows.
And then Giles does the tell me.
Yes.
Oh, yes. But Joe, and you'll love this because it's costuming, the 8 characters in the line during the song wear colors in the visible spectrum, but the couples are wearing opposite colors. So Giles is in green, Buffy is in red, Anya's in blue, Xander's in orange, Tara's in yellow, Willow's in purple.
Interesting.
To reflect their relationship dynamics are at odds.
Or how they're fucked up right now. Yeah, so that is Once More with Feeling. I know we're about to go into our sort of final talks about this, but I would like to throw it out to the people who maybe check this episode out without having consumed much, if any, of the show. I'd love to hear if we have at all converted people.
Yes.
Which I'll be really interested to hear as well, because this isn't the episode I would recommend for people that haven't watched Buffy.
Really? You don't want to start with season 6, episode 7?
But what is your episode, Josh?
It would be something along the lines of a banned candy, a Halloween, a Fear itself, something 2, 3, and 4, sort of standalone, fun, plot arc heavy, and then you can kind of go into maybe that sort of angel arc in the end of season 2.
I think it's just because I just want to show people the musical. But it's so funny because when you said band candy, in my head, I heard beer bad. And I was like,
oh, God, no! Fuck no. One of the worst episodes in the entire series.
God. That season 4 does have some problems. But again, it has so many standout episodes, but just as an arc.
Although it is funny that episode kind of gets a shout out in this episode when Spike offers her a drink and she's like, ugh, no.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's also a throwback to Life Serial as well, where she gets drunk for the first time as well. So you're getting a double whammy. But I was going to bring up actually, before we close, do we want to talk very quickly about Anya's song in Selfless?
Oh, fuck. Yeah, okay.
I forgot about it.
So, everyone, I mean, basically, in the next season, Xander and Anya do not last because he abandons her ass at the altar, and it's really fucking upsetting.
It's really hard to watch.
I cried during that episode. But yeah, we get Anya gets her episode in season 7 called Selfless, and there's a flashback, and she sings because it's a flashback from the musical episode that we don't get to see, and it's honestly even more upsetting because it's her I Want song. Like, she's like, I'm going to be Mrs. Xander Harris. Like, that's my goal. That's my goal.
Right. I've forgotten all about that.
And she, like, has the moment in the wedding dress at the end, and then it hard cuts to her being stabbed.
Yes!
It's brilliant. It's a really strong one. And I think it's a number that is maybe arguably stronger than a lot of the numbers in this one, I would argue.
It's probably because they only had to write one song when that episode was going on.
For sure.
Yeah. Oh God, that's.
But yeah, just a cute little thing to bring up as well. That so you do get a reprise of Once More with Feeling later on in season 7.
Yeah,
there we go.
Yeah, it's very sad. But okay, everyone. So that is Once More with Feeling, and yes, by all means, final thoughts. Josh, go first.
I love it. You know, I think it's probably the best episode of. Or the best musical episode of a television series. I think it's a testament to the cast and crew that like were able to pull this off and make it work. It's in my top 10, but it's not my favorite at all, because I think it is a very sort of one-off special episode, and it is so steeped within the lore of where they are sort of in season 6, and just my personal preference is sort of around sort of the high school years. So it's not my fave, but it's an amazing episode.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's not my fave, but you know, it's in that group of episodes with Hush and The Body, and those stand out. Like, let's experiment with the television formula episodes.
Yeah,
that I think make this so impactful. And again, I mean, like, this soundtrack, I know it's like simple when it comes to like actual musical arrangements, but like I like simple, and it's so fun. It's so fun to listen to this soundtrack.
Oh, they're really catchy. They're so catchy.
Yes. Yeah. And that's just it, right? Like, we're making a musical for people who maybe don't like musicals. This is coming 6 seasons into a show. Folks, I can't even begin to tell you how many TV shows I've watched where, like, after season 5, it looks like the cast is on autopilot. Yeah. So to pull off something this ambitious and to do it so fucking well, like, it really is a masterpiece, and it's hard to undersell just how special this is, considering the network, considering their budget, the timing, the fact that half this cast is not professional and did not really want to do this all that much. Like, it's just something very, very special.
Yeah, I agree. And again, listeners, please let us know if we converted you. I follow up on Joe's statement with that. Please let us know.
And if you are fans, I would like to hear what your favorite episode is.
Oh God, get ready for that email list.
Well, because my thing is, I find that people do gravitate to the big episodes. So like the number of people who are like, oh my God, it has to be Hush. And I'm like, yes, but there's like other really great episodes. Like the ones that don't get the special attention are some of my favorites.
Yeah, but I mean, I love Becoming 1 and 2, and I love Graduation Day 1 and 2. Like, I mean, the seasons 2 and 3 finales are just like perfect. And also, I love everything about Glory. Glory is my favorite big bad, even if she is not the most threatening, because she is Anya, but like with powers.
Okay, spoiler alert. The resolution of my thesis.
I was going to ask this, yes.
It is Glory. Glory is actually the most representative of all the big bad. She's an amalgamation of all of the others. And she's also Buffy's counterpart.
Mm-hmm.
She was the culmination.
And obviously we did not dive into this because we did not discuss any Glory-centric episodes, but there is a definite trans reading to be made out of Glory in a lot of season 5.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
With Ben.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Okay, well, that was awesome. Before we announce what we're covering next week, Josh, let everyone know, where can they find you on social media?
Yeah, you guys can find me on Instagram and Twitter. It's just my name, at Joshua Tonks. And then if you want to take a listen to Eerie Earfuls, which just came out the 1st of October, you can find that on Bandcamp, which is a cool app. It's sort of like a sort of streaming service, but for like independent artists. So it'd be wicked if you could go on there and support that. That'd be amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent.
Well, if you want to get in touch with us, you can reach us on Twitter and Instagram at HorrorQueers. Go to our Facebook group to hang out with other listeners. Find us on Letterboxd to keep track of all the films we've covered. And, of course, go to our YouTube channel to watch our coverage of Sci-Fi's Chucky. And go look at our other MicroQueers episodes.
Mm-hmm.
If you want even more content, please support the show by becoming a patron at patreon.com/HorrorQueers. If you go subscribe today, we will have episodes on, well, I mean, some of them have already come out, some of them will come out, but for November, we'll have episodes on Amazon Prime's I Know What You Did Last Summer series, Sci-Fi Slumber Party Massacre Remake, Antlers, Resident Evil Welcome to Raccoon City, and an audio commentary on the original 2002 Resident Evil.
Mm-hmm.
Joe.
Yes.
What are we talking about next week?
Okay, so we're gonna go a little bit more proper horror, but actually not as horrific as maybe people might expect. I don't even know what I'm saying. We're gonna go and take a look at Patrick Bryce's Creep.
Oh, I mean, I think it's horror.
It's horrific in a completely different sense than I think a lot of people expect, but oh boy, there is just so much discomfort in this movie.
Yes, and lots of queer undertones.
Yeah.
Very much so. Well, Josh, once again, thank you so much for joining us to discuss Once More with Feeling. It's been a treat.
Thank you so much. It's been amazing. I love you guys. I listen all the time, so it's been pretty cool to come and talk to you.
And on that note, I think we can cross out Once More with Feeling.
Indeed, and cross out Horror Queers.
I touch the fire and it freezes me.
It was late in the afternoon when the professor and I took our way towards the east, whence I knew Jonathan was coming.
Jonathan Harker has asked me to note this, as he says he is hardly equal to the task, and he wants an exact record kept.
Dear Madam Mina, I have read your husband's so wonderful diary. Strange and terrible as it is true. I will pledge my life on it.
God preserve my sanity, for to this I am reduced. Safety and the assurance of safety are things of the past.
I am in hopes that I shall see more of you at Castle Dracula.
Listen to Regarding Dracula wherever you listen to podcasts, or find us online at bloody.fm.